All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We are live for the Friday night edition of the Rem and Sam pod. It's part 3 of the Boyz in the Hood week, the John Singleton week. Is it Cuba Gooding Jr. week? It just might be. It is what it is. You know, I think it all worked out for the best when we were going into the summer anyways. We were like, are we going to have to think of some theme weeks to try to work into the summer schedule this year once the World Cup ends? You know, obviously we do have, some WNBA, some Summer League, the NFL preview stuff will start, of course. We'll start looking toward that in a little bit. But I was like, are we going to have to work in some themes? And unofficially, I guess, we end up getting like we're saying, a Boyz in the Hood anniversary weekend this week. We did initially start with, some IT troubles trying to stream it on the first time watching it. And if you're looking it up right now, you may say, well, it's not streaming anywhere. Well, it might be part of the issue, but it all works out. Cause like we're saying, we get a theme week because of it. And if you see right here, boom, 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 we got the DVD. So, it works out perfect. I will say, if I remember correctly, I remember my own week, but I want to say that I did go to the DVD store, retrace our steps, do a little detective work. I want to say that we did go there on the Sunday, before the Sunday live stream, so we didn't really give ourselves any leeway, but they didn't have it. So when we went back today after work, again, not really giving ourselves any leeway there, but we went back today. I was like, okay, we'll see within the week if they did manage to get it. And, luckily it was sitting right there. So it's like, boom, let's cop that real quick. And then, of course, we have to wander back over. It was in, like, the normal section, I guess. And then we had to wander back over to the clearance area, the discount area. Of course, you have to give it a quick scan just to see if there's any, value you rescue over there. And they did have the 2018 Halloween, so we did scoop that up as well too. Add that to the collection, lock that in. I guess for DVD purposes, we still need to get the OG Halloween. That's definitely a top tier one on the list as well. And maybe just in general get a couple more horror type ones. But I guess the 2018, I'm getting the year right. Anyways, it's that first of the newest reboot that they did with Jamie Lee Curtis. And I think it's 2018, and that one is really, really good. Where it is a little bit back to the basics with Michael Myers, out of the institution, breaking out of the institution, hunting back down Jamie Lee Curtis, but getting back to those Halloween story outline basics with the updated, being able to update the story with some of the technology, obviously Carpenter. We've obviously talked about some of his movies. Brilliant with the camera work, brilliant with just crafting a movie. Like, you're not going to really update that stuff per se. But obviously there is tactical things, there are effects things, there are, different sort of action sequencing things now that are a little bit different that, are just going to make that a little bit more watch. And it does lean into that. It is a little bit more of a higher action movie. I was looking at there is this page. It's called Hey Yo Chat. I guess obviously we tread lightly with the movie that we're talking about. But since we're talking about Michael Myers real quick, we're talking about our DVD haul. Since we had to go get Boyz in the Hood on the DVD, and we got the 2018 Halloween DVD as well. So again, that's the connection here. But I was looking up Michael Myers. Let's see if I can find it again. Michael Myers kill count for his movies, and obviously some of the, like we're saying, the first one does start off, I guess, a little slower compared to some of the other ones. But I didn't know they had a list of death wikis. Hey, you can just go track what these characters have done over the course of their movies, and they just have it all laid out. They have victims and everything. They have all the moves. It's like Basketball Reference for Michael Myers kills. Hey yo. Like, this is crazy. I guess it does get, covered up with ads. But, he's putting in work in some of these later movies. 29 and 07. I guess the Rob Zombie ones, he's really going crazy. Maybe we don't go back to that, era of Halloween as much. Yeah, like H2O with Jamie Lee Curtis, he's at like 6. That's pretty standard, you would say. But Halloween 2007, boom, he turns into, like, Rambo. It's like John Wick 2. Or I guess Rambo is the good comparison. The kill count, well, I guess we'd have to go back and check. It may up significantly from John Wick 1 to John Wick 2. But it's not, he's putting in work in John Wick 1. It's not like he's not. But the 2021 Halloween, he does 31 kills. But so we might have to go back to rewatch this one as well, too, because there is some bunch, where maybe he takes out some guys in a bunch as well, too. Like, you have a cluster of firefighters here, hey, yo, rest in peace. You have unnamed, a whole group of unnamed mob members. And then there's one here that's 2 unnamed mob members. So that's a, double. Is that actually 40 kills? That should be 2. That should be 2 kills right there. It's like a 3 and 1 3-pointer. And yeah, a couple of these are doubled up. Hey, yo. So we've got one here, unnamed firefighter stabbed in the stomach by Michael Myers with a fire hook. Unnamed firefighter hacked to death by Michael Myers with a circular saw. I mean, man, he's just ripping through this scene. And then it says here, 3 unnamed firefighters stabbed in the eye. And then 3 more killed off screen. So again, those should be 6. That should be 6 total right there. And then we do have one named firefighter, I guess. Rest in peace to Tom Bentley. Hey, yo, bashing the head Michael Myers with a fire. Really, putting the fire hook to use, Chad. Hey, yo. I mean, you can't really let Michael Myers get his hands on a weapon, but I mean, that for sure is crazy. I guess where did it go in this order? So did he have the fire hook and then ditch it for the circular saw at the end? I don't know what happened. Again, we need to go back and revisit the 2021 one. But then they're like, okay, we got to go back to go back to basics again. Michael Myers, 6 kills in 2022. Efficiency is important for the Michael Myers movies. That's for sure. Sometimes you want your best player to put up 40 in a game. We're not saying that, but sometimes again, it is efficiency, that is important there. But which, speaking of 40, do we have to mention as well, too, right before we jumped on, shout out Caitlin Clark, the first ever WNBA player to have 40 points, 10 assists in a game, I think is what they were saying after the performance tonight. Her personal career high. So really, obviously a classic Caitlin Clark performance in a way. But yeah, Malonga for the Storm, obviously, 6 and 21. It's obviously maybe been a little struggle for them to close games. I don't know, but they are a young team. I know Malonga's a newer draft pick. Obviously, Flau'jae Johnson, a newer draft pick as well too. But 28 and 14, and she was obviously doing some good stuff around the basket there. There was no Aaliyah Boston tonight, so an opportunity for her to take advantage, and she was able to get some stat stuff. There was a couple of plays at the end that obviously maybe would have helped to win the game, but again, for the obviously long-term development stuff, and maybe again, 6 and 21, I guess at this point maybe the tanking for the draft pick is good stuff. I don't know if we would need to check the tankathon for the WNBA draft, get an update real quick about what the names are there. But because obviously the era that we were just in, Paige Beckers being in this last draft, was a real high profile era. It is what it is. It's like that for the NBA as well too. I mean, we were talking about that, looking at the NBA mock draft, where this is the first time where we just don't kind of naturally know some of the names, where it was like even that Cooper Flag class, and the newest one as well too, with Dembasta and Boozer and stuff. I guess because Boozer being a NBA, his dad obviously obviously being a great NBA player, but then some of the gold medal international stuff for some of the youth tournaments as well too. Obviously being really successful there. But yeah, I mean, speaking of Michael Myers, there is the comparison there. I guess both putting up 40 in the game, but also just the stalking that I guess that happens with Caitlin Clark in these games as well too, where obviously there are great NBA players, that can have great individual performances, but man, I don't know if there is somebody that really just will hunt down an opponent like Caitlin Clark does when it is, like a 10, 15 type point lead. I guess I don't know exactly how far down the Fever were in this one, because when I was flipping on the fourth quarter there, it was still kind of close, but it was just realizing at some point that eventually Caitlin Clark's going to flip this game, and she did, and it didn't even end up going to overtime as well too, because it being kind of tied there. I guess there was a little bit of a potential for that as well. But it really is just like, oh no, here comes Caitlin Clark, like it's gonna happen, hey yo, and then boom, a couple threes, and then all of a sudden, she's right there. And I guess Kelsey Mitchell is obviously, we got to give her respect. A little Klay Thompson there as well too. Obviously I was going to make the Steph Curry comparisons as have been made in the past. He has had a little factor like that. But the difference with the Warriors team, and I guess it's not a hot take to say that the 15-16 Warriors era team is better than this Fever team. I mean, that's no disrespect to this Fever team. It's just, that Warriors era team is a little bit more proven at this point. I mean, if the Fever team goes on the run, gets in that tier, then, we obviously, they go into that tier. But at this point, the legacy stuff, it is what it is. But the stuff, again, obviously, and that's eventually what becomes, obviously, again, one of the great lineups of all time. And that 15-16 team itself, again, was 73-9 in the regular season. So, there's some great stuff there, but they were in the lead for a lot of those games. There was some games there where you get the performance in OKC and stuff. There were some obviously tense battles that they did have to go win there for some of those games. But for a lot of those, it would be like second, third quarter that would happen, that the flip would happen in the game, and then all of a sudden, the terror would be, I guess, that Golden State has like poured it on, and now all of a sudden they're up 20, and you're just like, well, we're out of this one. Like, we are not gonna go back. And of course, I guess with the 3-point era stuff, there is, the ability for the team to sort of get back into the game a little bit better now that we see, the 20-point lead is not really that much, in, I guess, the modern NBA, maybe the same way that it used to. But even a decade ago, that's kind of right on the edge where that is turning a little bit. And, I guess 20 points down to the Warriors is just different, even still down 20 points to any team these days. But, again, like we're saying, it's different because they were just overtaking these teams earlier in the game. So it is a different, it is a little bit more, I guess, Michael Myers horror-like tension when it's the fourth quarter element. It's just, we're trying to win this game. We're trying to close out this game. Can we do everything we can to hold off this superstar? And it's just like, no, I guess because we do need like the list of death wiki for Michael Myers as well too. Like, as much as, he has been inflicting damage. And I think maybe in some of the newer ones, like, well, I guess they don't stop that. They keep they lock him in lock him in the bottom of the basement at one point, like try to burn the house down. I guess, is that the last one? I'm not sure, but Myers himself is obviously, taking some damage over the course of the films. The first one is, he barely makes it out. So, it's just like, oh, you stab Michael Myers in the eye, you Donald Pleasance shoots him 6 times. I guess, I don't know, who the Donald Pleasance is for the Storm. Maybe we, tread lightly with the comparisons there. But, again, Donald Pleasance is a great actor. So for comparing acting ability, basketball talent, it's a compliment. He's one of the greats. One of the great Shakespearean English actor. What is he? Is he a psychiatrist? I guess he's just like a doctor. But do we know what he's a doctor of, chat, in the movies? We don't really know. We don't really investigate, the Donald Pleasance career. Maybe that's the next move. Obviously, like we're saying, the franchise is in a little bit of a different place right now. I guess you could always just keep bringing Michael Myers back with Jamie Lee Curtis, and I guess rest in peace to Donald Pleasance. So he wouldn't obviously be able to play Loomis now, but maybe you need to find like Jesse Eisenberg is is Sam Loomis, chat. Hey, we get like Jesse Eisenberg in the Sam Loomis prequels, and he's like, because you could have like a when Michael first gets there, and he's not even really, it almost becomes more of like a possession type movie where, Michael's not even really like killing people at that point. Hey, it's like right when he first gets there as a kid. I guess we'd have to go back and see remember the whole timeline for Myers, and then, he gets to the institution. The institution could obviously be, a little messed up already at this point. Do we think Sam Loomis is running the cleanest, institution over there? I'm not sure, but again, he gets there, things start getting creepy, things get terrifying, I guess. I don't know, maybe a little Exorcist 3 type of situation. George C. Scott and Donald Pleasance in a horror movie together would have been, hey, I can barely speak thinking about it. Hey, that would have been crazy. How did we never see that? I have to Google that. Did that happen? Hey, there's no way that those two guys didn't star or were not in a movie together at some point, because they were, obviously very active actors. George C. Scott movie. Let's see. Did this ever happen? Did they ever? They both star in a classic 1984 film adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Oh, there we go. George C. Scott plays the lead role of Ebenezer Scrooge, while Donald Pleasant's daughter, Angelica Pleasance, or Angela Pleasance, plays the ghost of Christmas past. Oh, so wait, Donald Pleasance is not actually in this though? But George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge is pretty good. I don't know. I think that works because I think George C. Scott would be so, so upset to be in this movie that he'd be Scrooge like about being in this movie. And then you'd actually just get a really good performance about it. George would be like, oh, I don't want to be here. But, oh, humbug. I guess we'd have to go back and see whatever his catchphrase is. But no Donald Pleasance, I guess, is what we're seeing here. Okay, it says George C. Scott, George C. Pleasance here in the credits. Let's see if we can get an IMDb official of what's going on. Okay, yeah, Angela Pleasance, Ghost of Christmas Past. Hey, yo. I guess I never really thought about the Donald Pleasance family tree, chat. Hey, yo, I guess I didn't realize he had, his kids were acting as well, too. Let's see what else is on here for major roles. Oh, Gangs of New York as well too. Hey, yo. I guess, Daniel Day does get a little left out of our rotation. That one is, I think, definitely for just, throwing on watchability, hot take, it gets there. For sure. See, I was going to say, this is Scorsese. So, yeah, DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, Daniel Day, and Scorsese. Like, yeah, I'm sure it's pretty watchable. But in the scale of the mob movie, the gangster movie, it's not necessarily, I think, the main go-to. It is what it is. And, again, just Leo and Daniel Day do have movies in those, in some of those lanes that do kind of, cross over there a little bit as well. So, and, obviously just Scorsese in his own right, just, has so many other mob movies that you just go to those. It is what it is. And I guess Les Miserables, I guess this is a TV movie from 78. So, not as familiar with that one there. But it maybe not some of these other ones as well too. But shout out, obviously getting roles, working, and gotta give him credit there. But getting close, chat. Hey, yo, I guess we never actually got George C. Scott and Donald Pleasance in a movie. How is that possible? Hollywood, what are we doing? Hey, yo. There's so many things, I guess, wrong with Hollywood in the 80s. But, one of them is George C. Scott and Donald Pleasance aren't in a movie together. I guess of all the people we're casting, why can't we get those two guys in a movie? Hey, yo. It is what it is. But I was going to say, I guess, Donald Pleasance as Ebenezer Scrooge would be a little different. Because that'd be a much more, timid Ebenezer Scrooge. But he could snap as well. So, hey, yo, chat, wait, do I take a drink straight out of the gallon jug here? I'll refill the little mini water bottle so it's not as obnoxious going forward. But, I guess, spoiler alert, we do have a little gallon situation going on here, chat. Hey, yo, I wish this was like a cooler drink that we were making here, but we're just pouring water into a smaller water bottle. Is really all it is. But chat, hey, yo, and I can barely do it. Pause. But what are we saying for Pleasance? I guess as Ebenezer Scrooge, it could have worked. There is a lane where it does work because he could rage on some guys. Like he goes into the office at some point and he's like, oh, we're like, oh, why is everybody scared of Donald Pleasance? And he's like, kind of like, maybe even almost like shaking a little bit, like giving that little, we can't really call it the Donald Pleasance shake. Hey, but there is like a jitteriness that he did have to him. So he's like, being kind of jittery while he's in there. And then it's like, oh, somebody tells him about something or the other reports. And then he's just like, and then he just snaps. And maybe they even do the Michael Myers lines to Donald Pleasance. They're like, oh, Ebenezer Scrooge, his eyes, he's got the evilest eyes. See, now the problem is we need Donald Pleasance to say that. So maybe he looks in the mirror at one point. He looks to himself. He's like, what have I become? My eyes, the evilest eyes. I guess I don't know exactly how that works. But if he was saying that to George C. Scott, so he could be one of the ghosts. I guess a ghost of Christmas past. That is good, diversifying the roles there. Obviously, the ghosts, I think 3 for 3, a lot of dudes there. And I think in the 50s, sort of iconic one. It is what it is. But I guess, is that 55? I don't know. Alistair Sim, the iconic role. I guess, George C. Scott versus we have to do a George C. Scott versus Alistair Sim versus at some point. I don't know, because Alistair Sim in The Exorcist 3, that is a good. Those guys, I guess they wouldn't have been on each other's corner because, George C. Scott would have been later. But George C. Scott is the next Alistair Sim? Hey, yeah, I guess it's the easy comparison because they both did play, you know, Ebenezer Scrooge, like we're saying. But I could see Alistair Sim in Exorcist 3. That could be fun as well. Though George C. Scott maybe again a little bit more command. Though I think Pleasance is like George C. Scott is like Alistair Sim's silhouette. Like, hey, like he's like, because Alice, he's like a little bit taller. I think, I don't know, maybe for the movie, in that movie world he's taller. I'm not sure if they've got him like, in special shoes or something. But Pleasance does, like, the way that Sim is acting, kind of scared in the later one. Like, Pleasance could do that. Hey, yo. So, again, I don't know. It would be funnier to see him snap and rage on the people, but he could. It would definitely work. So, again, rest in peace to the great Donald Pleasance. We'll help you out, Donald Pleasance, from we'll do an AI Donald Pleasance Ebenezer Scrooge. No, we won't do that, obviously. Hey, yo. I guess never say never, Chet. Then once AI Hollywood, is in full effect at this point, we're like, well, what are we gonna do? Not make Donald Pleasance as Ebenezer Scrooge at that point? I mean, who else in history are you casting? Hey, yo, there's nobody now. And maybe that is a good test as well. I think maybe our favorite actors in general, there is just like an Ebenezer Scrooge vibe. Like, if you can play Ebenezer Scrooge, in your career, it's like you qualify. It's like Michael Douglas, Al Pacino, George C. Scott. Hey, yo, like all these guys could have done that role. So, Gene Hackman, chat. Hey, yo. Obviously, we're being a little specific there, but I guess I am being specific. Like, I'm not thinking like, Henry Cavill, or even what was Idris Elba gets every role, but what is, I give like it's gotta be like there's just like a grimier type of vibe to Ebenezer Scrooge, obviously, even though I guess he is like of the wealthy elite. But I guess that fits as well too. Pause. But I don't know. We don't have a guy right now that could be in A Christmas Carol. Hey, yo. Of all the remakes, because that is A Christmas Carol is a Christmas Carol, a Christmas Carol. That is like the OG Spider-Man, Chad. Like, they would just remake A Christmas Carol like every couple of years. Like, obviously Hollywood gets criticized now for remakes, but they've been remaking movies all the time, and A Christmas Carol is one of them. Like, how many adaptations and TV movies and stuff? I'm sure they're doing TV movies now. But, now it's like Jamie Foxx has to be Ebenezer Scrooge in an ABC TV movie. And it's like, okay, I mean, that works. I'm sure it's funny. Jamie Foxx being scared of the ghost, like, would be hilarious. I would definitely tune into that. That'd be awesome. But it's not the same thing, Jamie Foxx can't be Ebenezer Scrooge. But I'm just saying, like, like a hot guy being scared. I don't know. Again, it's like there is something about Ebenezer Scrooge being kind of, older, there is like a little bit of an outcast vibe there that you can sort of understand. Like, that maybe George C. Scott again can tap into a little bit. And just to, again, you get somebody that's going to be so charismatic as well too on the screen. That's just going to be like, oh, like, who's not going to like Jamie Foxx, and a Jamie Foxx character in whatever movie world it's going to be. But I guess we have to go back and, obviously, think of all the Jamie Foxx characters. But, again, even like, Denzel or something, like, just as like, Ayo, I guess we got to find somebody that we can cast as Ebenezer Scrooge there, Chad. Ayo, but I think hopefully you get what we're trying to say, is just in general, like, again, Hollywood, I don't think has the guy at this point. It's like, even like that guy, like, who's the guy from Black Panther, Chad? Hey, yeah, like the one white guy in Black Panther, but what's his name? Martin something. Like, I don't, like, even, he just, like, he doesn't have, like, the same sort of, and maybe, with all due respect to him as well, too, it's not the same sort of, like, leading man thing as well. Or it's like, George C. Scott was kind of like a leading man back in the day. Hey, yo. Like, Hollywood just doesn't have the atypical, that's the word I'm looking for, like, the atypical leading man as well. Pacino, is like the the best of both worlds. What are we trying to say there? But because he could play in both worlds. Like Pacino can definitely have the charm and charisma of being like traditional, and the good looks of being just like traditional good looking leading man. But it could you give Pacino a cigarette and like undo his tie a little bit, mess up his hair, and it's like, oh, grimy Pacino. Hey, yeah, it's like all of a sudden, again, he's now, and I guess the Donald Pleasance tier at this point. Hey, again, rest in peace. Shout out to Donald Pleasance. It is what it is. But yeah, Chet. Hey, yo, Hollywood. We've lost the Ebenezer Scrooge in Hollywood. I didn't even realize it till now. Because it's gonna be now. It's like we already said, like Jamie Foxx. We're like Javier Bardem is Ebenezer Scrooge, and it's just like hey, yo, what are we doing? I guess Ebenezer Scrooge in Spain would be interesting if he's like walking through a siesta or something, not walking through a fiesta or something. And like, Chad, forgive us for being so basic, but I think obviously we're just trying to set the scene. Spanish La Scrooge. Hey, yo, that would be interesting. I guess okay, maybe I'm talking myself into Javier Bardem's version of the Christmas Carol. I don't know, who else we're getting in that as well too, but that could be interesting. I don't know if if Ebenezer Scrooge has to take somebody out like Anton Chigurh. Hey, yo, do we have to pull up a photo of Anton? Let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. Anton Chigurh. Where's the police station kill? Hey, yo, speaking of, I guess we need to go list of kill or list of death wiki for Anton Chigurh. Hey, yo, Chad. Hey, yo, this is how you know Javier Bardem was locked in for this movie. He was like, this is like one of the great acting scenes of all time, but like, I guess one of the great overacting scenes of all time. Again, speaking of Pacino, like this is right up there with anything that Pacino has ever done in Heat. Hey, yo, like, I guess, Chigurh, I'm sure Chigurh and Vincent Hanna may have one thing in common. They may be powered by some similar things. Who's to say? But he was locked in here, Chad. Hey, this is definitely one of the best ones for sure. It's almost one of those. It's like, again, it's obviously a scary movie the way that the Coen brothers craft the movie, but it's almost so Javier Bardem is almost so intense in this movie that it almost takes you back out of how intense the rest of the movie is, if that even makes sense. It like overshoots the intensity at some point. Like obviously, then he goes to the one shop, and the guy's just like a normal nice guy and hanging out, and Shigor's just like having like the death conversation with him, and this guy's just like, oh, used to raise cattle with my pops back in the day, and it's just like, oh man, these guys are living two separate lives. But like, and this poor guy as well too is like, hey, sheriff, I got this guy in the back of the truck, and it's like Shigor's just got him on the floor, and it's like, okay, didn't even stand a chance. But Javier, again, this is the closest we have now to George C. Scott in in modern cinema, I guess, at this point. Hey, yo, yeah, the shower scene, chat, taking that right from Training Day. But I guess, spoiler alert for Training Day, obviously, Ethan Hawke's character, a little bit more of a different fate there. Or I guess maybe Psycho as well too, a little bit different. I guess this guy's obviously not like the Janet Leigh of the movie. But, anytime anybody, gets executed in a shower, I guess shout out, you think of, Alfred Hitchcock. I guess it is what it is. But, I guess there is something here that could work. Javier Bardem, Anton Chigurh's A Christmas Carol. Hey, yo, that would be quite the transformation as well, too. If it was, the ghost of Christmas Past has to visit Anton Chigurh. Maybe like the first ghost of Christmas Past gets the, whatever this thing is called, like the cattle compressor. Maybe the ghost of Christmas Future gets the cattle compressor the first time, and then, he has to come back. And he's like, hey, now, like, let's not do that. That was no fun. Or they have to, disarm him or something. I'm not sure. But, crossing over worlds. I guess that would be the Hollywood remake version of it. Would be A Christmas Carol. No Country for a Christmas Carol. Oh, Chad. Hey, yo, and it's set in Spain. Anton Chigurh back in Spain. No Country for a Christmas Carol. Hey, yo, I'm also thinking of the opening. I guess I feel like maybe this is in Spain. Maybe it's over here in the Western Hemisphere. I'm not sure. But there's the opening scene from Spectre, where, hey, this is the first movie we got to rip off when when we're trying to make a masterpiece. But Inspector, when Bond goes through the parade, and then they go through the parade and they go back up. It's like the 1917 single solo shot situation. It follows Bond through the parade. You go back up through the hotel situation. He has a lady with him. He leaves the lady. He goes out to try to execute the mission. Obviously, Sam Mendes in his bag a little bit for that one, but hey yo, Chet. Oh, this is bad here. We might have to we might have to like put like a disclaimer on the video. Hey yo, I didn't even see the victim's face there. Hey yo, I don't know if that's edited or if that's like the perfect still of the movie. If he actually like goes that purple in the situation, that's tough. Hey yo, but we just this is top notch. Shout out. I guess you can't really like. I don't even know if I can recreate. I don't even know if I want to. Hey yo, you can't like do the lines for this like the same way you can't do like "give me all you got" or obviously quit wasting my time. But the family friendly live stream version. But again, obviously, like we're saying, this is if you're thinking about moments from cinema, that's right up there as well too. Shout out, but. I guess, yeah, Chad. Hey, yo. We need, let us know, DM us at Rem and Sam Pod, who is the #1 Ebenezer Scrooge type actor in Hollywood right now? Does Hollywood have that guy? Maybe we just need the next generation to just like, get older a little bit. Maybe in like 50 years, it'll be like, oh, Tom Holland is actually the next George C. Scott. Who's to say? We might have to go back and look at some of these guys' earlier careers, but I don't know. I don't think Donald Pleasance was like playing Spider-Man early on. Like it seemed like these guys kind of hit their lane when they got to this point. And maybe there was I guess some ebbs and flows for the types of leading man, obviously maybe not in a ton of ways, but still again like 50s, I don't know, 50s, 60s, like Humphrey Bogart, Clark Gable. Hey, again there was a different situation there. And then again, I guess you hit the George C. Scott era. Shout out, but I guess you still have what do we say, like De Niro and stuff at this time as well too. Sidney Poitier. So it's not just George C. Scott just running cinema at this time, but he was around. Shout out. Obviously, we gotta give him credit. Maybe a little Christmas in July after this chat. Hey yo, maybe I'll just go run. Can we? Is it streaming anywhere? 1984 is A Christmas Carol. I was thinking. Bill Murray is I think. Obviously still, if he was around, I guess, not say that he isn't around, but he just, I think, is an actor that gets defined by a different generation, even if he is, again, still like more of a name now than obviously, again, a guy like George C. Scott. Hey, yo. But, he obviously played Scrooge in his past as well. But I guess we could look up and see who the most recent version to play it is as well. Would it be like Christopher Plummer or something like that? Christmas Carol? Yeah, let me see. Problem is there's going to be too many to find. Oh, Jim Carrey, I guess, played it in 2009. Oh, that's right. Is Michael Caine Scrooge in 92? Oh, no, Patrick Stewart is Scrooge in A Muppets Christmas Carol? Okay, interesting. I guess like Steve Buscemi maybe playing Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know. Oh, of course it's on Tubi, chat. Hey, yo, George C. Scott might be moving into Tubi Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. A bitter old man who rationalizes his uncaring nature learns real compassion when three spirits visit him on Christmas Eve. Chat, we might be queuing it up in the middle of July. It is what it is. A little George C. Scott, little Angela Pleasance. Hey, yo, shout out. I get, good ratings all the way around. TV movie. So I guess maybe that's why it gets a little lost in the shuffle there as well. But hey, yo, chat, there's never, it's a classic. It's a classic. So there's never not a good time to think about, the iconic story. It is what it is. Are we going to go to a run of Christmas movies after this, Elf? I'm not sure. I guess, is Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey is kind of like the animated Christmas Carol there. So you can kind of, work around, I guess that. But Jim Carrey could get into character as well, too. And, be, I guess, a Scrooge type now. Hey, yo. Oh, Zemeckis did that. Oh, that's why it's animated, chat, in 2000s. Hey, yo. Zemeckis just like, I'm not making real movies anymore. And Gary Oldman is this. I guess Gary Oldman, again, he's a character guy. So he would really, really commit. as well. I'm not sure, but who is 2020? Who is I guess 2026 Ebenezer Scrooge actor? How do you spell Ebenezer? Hey, yeah, we've never had to type that in, I guess. Who is 206 2026 Ebenezer Scrooge actor? Let's see. Maybe it's a lady, chat. Maybe we have to cast the first Lady Scrooge, Ebenezette. I don't know if that's a name, but Johnny Depp playing Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know about that, but Ian McKellen. I guess this is Ebenezer. A Christmas Carol 2020. Oh, Johnny Depp is playing Scrooge. Oh, a dark fantasy. T West. Oh, is that the ex director? Hey yo, is Charles Dickens or not Charles Dickens? What's his name? Hey yo, is maybe just rename him Charles Dickens and Christmas Carol becomes a different story. Hey yo, yeah, X and Pearl. I'm pretty sure again, I'm obviously we're trying to be family friendly, but I'm pretty sure they're making a porno in that movie. So I don't know what he's gonna I don't know what like 18th century, 19th, 17th century London was looking like for some of the, I guess I don't know what the film technology was like for Scrooge's day. Maybe Scrooge runs some type of like shop or something. I don't know, chat. Hey yo, but it says a dark fantasy, a thrilling ghost story set in Dickens' London. Hey yo, following one man's supernatural journey to face his past future as he fights for a second chance at redemption. Hey yo, so is this like a meta story on Johnny Depp? In some ways, chat. I don't, who's to say? But I'm trying to think because this is like how like people when Ben Affleck was in Gone Girl, people were like, oh, it's like a meta, on like Ben Affleck's character in Hollywood about his likability and stuff like that. It's like, oh, is this Johnny Depp's meta role about him, reclaiming redemption? I don't know, but it's got Daisy Ridley in it as well too. So that's obviously gonna catch our attention there, and somehow AI Charles Dickens is credited here on the credits, so that's kind of fun. I guess we'll see we'll see what his contributions are to the movie, but expected this year, November 13th, 2026, Ebenezer: A Christmas Carol. I don't chat. Hey yo. Do we have to add this to the watch list? I don't know if we're gonna see this in theaters. Hopefully I actually hope this is a streaming movie. Hey, yo, give this to me for free, please. Hey, yo, hopefully this is on Netflix right away. Put this right in the DVD bin right away. I guess, the money is a little different now for how that works. But I'm thinking this does have a little bit of like, is this like a Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio type of situation, where it's going to be like a real dark sort of different twist on the story? But this one could actually be, good for that as well too. You do have the ghost. I did have Sleepy Hollow on the other day. Speaking of Depp, which, I guess I don't know who directs that. Hey, yeah, let's see. That one's obviously, pretty, well acclaimed. There, it's a decent movie for sure. Tim Burton, yeah, shout out. Obviously, him and Depp's guy. So, and I guess I don't know. Maybe T West. Maybe there is some T West Tim Burton comps there. I guess I've never really thought about that. Obviously, Tim Burton's kind of like a one of one in some ways. You don't really rush, I guess, to compare guys to Tim Burton's style as well. And I guess again, not to say that he isn't influential, I guess, but I don't know. It doesn't seem like there are a ton of I guess that's not true. Like, you do hear his movies, obviously, or crazy reference for sure. But I don't know if Tim Burton specifically as a name, gets brought up as, commonly in people talking about, who has impacted their projects, time and time again. But there is just like and I guess I'm not as familiar with the T West trilogy that he was making there. I guess is there a third movie? Because I think there's X, Pearl, and Maxine, if I'm not mistaken. So there might be a trilogy there. But, I guess I'm not familiar as those, but just even knowing like branding and marketing and stuff, and that's even the power of Tim Burton, is you just know a Tim Burton movie by marketing in some ways. And maybe I knew those movies by marketing specifically and knew that T West was responsible for that. So, again, him marketing a different movie, I wouldn't, if I just saw this trailer, would I be like, oh, that's T West? But maybe he does have, unique aesthetic in the horror lane the same way that Tim Burton does, where it is kind of, again, I do you say comical, but maybe there is some of those elements as well too. I was gonna say like a brightness to it. Obviously, that it's just like is Midsummer like is Ari Aster, Tim Burton just because Midsummer's bright. Like I guess that's not necessarily the case, and not all Tim, again, Sleepy Hollow is like a dark movie as well too, but it is almost a little Spielbergian in a way. Like there is like a I guess you can't say like a good nature to I guess shout out to Tim Burton, but there is a little like doesn't seem like Tim Burton ever hits the 10 out of 10 scary, the same way that some guys do as well. And maybe he's not again like going for Saw stuff as well too the entire time with crazy gory things as well too. But maybe I don't know, the T West Tim Burton comp, there is something there maybe. Again, DM us at Remington Pod, let us know what was going on there. I guess, do we have to check, did Tim Burton make A Christmas Carol back in the day? That seemed like that would have been a property for Tim Burton to tackle at some point. Tim Burton, and I guess George C. Scott was already in it, but Gene Hackman and Tim Burton's Christmas Carol, or I guess Johnny Depp back in the day, but he would have been too young back in the day. Now obviously again he's a little bit more, he's a little bit older, but again he's not like grayed up and stuff like that as well too. The trial didn't wither him apparently, Chad. Hey yo, like there is still, I guess, maybe the Johnny Depp Devage commercials are not the same the way that they used to be. Maybe Pattinson stepped into that role, I'm not sure, but again, for obviously, like we're saying, the lane there, I don't know if Depp's moved into his Michael Douglas era at this point. Hey yo, but this is interesting. This is interesting. We'll definitely, stay tuned. The Remington Pod will definitely be monitoring the developments. Everybody's talking about, July. Everybody's talking about the Odyssey. Everybody's talking about Spider-Man, like we're saying, Tom Holland, Christopher Nolan. We're looking at 2026, A Christmas Carol. Hey, yo. So we're locked in, Chet. The newest Scrooge property. We'll see who is, we'll see how that does. And we will go see, I guess, the Odyssey, hot take. I guess we'll go wander over to the theater and see the Odyssey. Like I guess everybody else will. Maybe. I think the thing is, the reviews, as we expected, the reviews are good. I don't know what we would do if the reviews were bad for a Nolan movie. You'd be like, oh, that must be bad at some point. But then I guess Tenet wasn't like the most well-reviewed movie, and you watch that, it's like, is that our second favorite Nolan movie behind The Dark Knight? But again, it didn't seem like Nolan at this point in his career with the Odyssey was gonna go in with and again any like bad hype for the movie. So it's like, okay, hot take, it does seem like it may be worth it a little bit to go see, but we'll have to, and in some ways, I guess, maybe we're being specific, but you do have Spider-Man right here next to it as well too, Chad. Hey, yo, I gotta drop the double ticket for Odyssey and Spider-Man in the back-to-back week. I don't know, hey, yo. Because the thing is, again, I if we have to pick one, I feel like our friend group is more of a Marvel friend group than a Nolan friend group. Though that is close. Because again, The Dark Knight is right there as just a single property as well too. I would say for our group specifically, some of the other Nolan movies, I think honestly, again, we might be a Dark Knight Tenet friend group. Hey, yo. But, again, maybe we respect the franchise more than Nolan, which is not I'm not trying to say that in a disrespectful way. But I do think that there is, obviously the fan base goes either way. Nolan has his specific fans, and I feel like if you're more of a Nolan fan in a way, maybe you try to get hot takey with it. You're like, oh, The Dark Knight's not my favorite movie. I like The Prestige. Prestige is a fine movie, but does The Prestige have Heath Ledger's Joker in it? I don't know. Does Christian Bale go overseas to extract a mob's accountant and have to like sky heist him out of a skyscraper in The Prestige? Try to pull that magic trick. Hey, yo, I don't think that happens, but I don't think they flip a truck in The Prestige. But again, Tenet's got some pretty cool moments in it there as well. But I guess what are we trying to find here, Chad? A Christmas Carol, the property, the IP. Let's see, legacy. See also adaptations. Do we have an adaptations here? Performances and adaptations. Yeah, it's got to have its own page Hey, yo, but it might honestly be one of the most adapted properties. Yeah, if you think about the stage plays as well, too, Chat. Hey, yo, that's putting up numbers because I guess they're gonna run that every year, basically. And you're running that at every level. That's even gonna get some local theater play as well, too. We need film and TV adaptations. Scrooge or Marley's Ghost, 1901. I didn't even know it went back that way, Chat. Hey, yo, pause. I guess the book itself was 1800s. But still, 1901, what is this? I'm almost even scared to watch that. Hey, I don't know what they were putting in their movies in 1901, chat. That's gonna be a risky watch. Who's to say? But Alistair Sim was 51. Did we say 55 earlier as our guest chat? Oh, I guess we don't win that one. But they did a 51, a 60, a 92, a 2018. The Passion of the Scrooge. Is this real? Hey, yo, is somebody doing a Passion of the Christ remake as Ebenezer Scrooge? The Passion of the Scrooge? What does that even mean? Hey, yo. Like, Scrooge doesn't become a good guy and falls for, like, is there like I guess there has to be like a lady situation in there. I don't even know what that is. Hey, yo, I might even be mixing that up with The Last Temptation. I guess it's not even The Last Temptation of Scrooge. Hey, that's a different movie, I guess. Hey, yo, The Passion of the Scrooge is modeled after something else. Hey, yo. I don't know what that is. We don't even have a Wikipedia link. That's just buried. Who's to say? But then there's a 2020 Christmas Carol as well here, too. Oh, it features voices? I guess a dance drama. A drama dance film? So I guess we don't really... Oh, Andy Serkis is in there? Okay, Andy Serkis as Ebenezer Scrooge is not bad. That is not bad. Carrie Mulligan, Daniel Kaluuya? This is actually stacked cast. Hey, yo, I was, gonna give it a hard time, pause, but they're actually delivering there. The 2020 remake might be sneaky, one of the best ones. Dennis the Menace Christmas chat, 2007? Oh, no. Oh, no. I guess there's all kinds of different derivative. Oh, like using, inspired. I guess Mr. Wilson's entire character is kind of inspired by Scrooge in some ways. My Dad is Scrooge, a 2014 fantasy film about talking animals using the novella to help a Scrooge-like father, played by Brian Cook, to see the error of his ways. The Man Who Was Invited to Christmas, a 2017 film about Charles Dickens' struggle to write the book while dealing with his own personal life with his characters, especially Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh, played by Christopher Plummer. There we go. Boom. We called that one. We said he was on the list there for sure. Oh, Spirited. That's right. They did do that Spirited movie. I guess I didn't realize that was like a Scrooge remake, but a modern musical reimagining focused on the perspective of the ghost. Oh, check. Get out of here. Get out of here. Hey, yo, Will Ferrell as the ghost of Christmas Present and Ryan Reynolds as the person visited by the ghost. See, that doesn't work. And that might be the worst possible Ebenezer Scrooge of all time, Ryan Reynolds. But that just doesn't work at all. Like, again, we were saying, like, there is some similarities with, I guess, what we were saying with Jamie Foxx earlier about how, there would be, like, a joking sarcasm. He's never actually scared. He's more there. Is he, like, there making witty quips? But, again, actually, Jamie Foxx would want to actually be funny as well, too. But, there would be, like, a subtlety to it. And it would be specific to the movie. Like, Jamie Foxx would never be like, oh, the Ghost of Christmas Present, have you ever called the Ghost of Christmas Future from Mint Mobile? Or, the Ghost of Christmas Past, oh, let's take shots of Terramana. I can't stand seeing 3 ghosts in one night. Or I guess he doesn't sell Terramana. I guess that's The Rock. But, whatever, Aviation Gin, there we go. We probably shouldn't even shout it out. But he's like, oh, I've seen 3 ghosts in one night. The only way to handle that's a glass of Aviation Gin. Like, we wouldn't get that from, again, Jamie Foxx. Like, it just would be, it would be too much from Ryan Reynolds in that movie. I guess it did happen. So, probably why we haven't seen that one. I'm not sure. There is a upcoming musical film by Walt Disney Pictures, which will adapt the Christmas Carol through Jacob Marley's perspective. I guess Bill Condon will write and direct the film. Maybe I need to see the names here. Oh, the Twilight series guy's gonna be. Chat. Oh, we got a Christmas Carol with vampires. That would be pretty sick as well. I don't know if that goes into some of the what we were. I guess it goes into nothing that we were talking about earlier. But it would be a good ad. That is for sure. I do like just the idea of a movie being called Marley. Like, that is kind of a fun thing if you're remaking a movie is, you could just straight up, it's like, okay, we're remaking a Christmas Carol. But I do like that. I do like it when they remake it and give it a different name as well too. Now it does seem like they are going to try something a little bit different. But the problem is Marley's not like a big part of, I mean, he is a big part of the story for sure. And I guess you could have it being from more of his real life perspective as well too. That backstory, Scrooge's backstory through the perspective of Jacob Marley, more so than Marley being a ghost visiting him. Because Marley only visit him what's like twice as a ghost and doesn't really like lead him through things. Again, I've only seen the 51 version a bunch of times, but only every Christmas. But what are we saying for he visits him the first time. That's like the introductory ghost. You have to send him, he's somebody he's familiar with, so you don't just totally shock him right away. So they send him Jacob Marley, and then and then he leads him over to some window situation later. I guess I never did fully understand that scene. I might have to go run both of them. I guess maybe we'll see if that scene's in the George C. Scott version later tonight when we run that. You think I'm not? You think I'm kidding, Chad? I mean, call me a George C. Scott fan because I will watch Christmas Carol in July. It is what it is. But again, I guess I've a Christmas Carol remake, just calling it Marley, even if it's beat for beat. I guess it can't be beat for beat the same thing. But I guess we could see it. We could see it. I guess it would if it is them younger, it would make up for what we're saying. Where it now again, it could be like Henry Cavill as Ebenezer Scrooge or something like that. It's like young, Ebenezer Scrooge, which I guess because of the British, I guess maybe that's why I would think it works, just because they're British. Hey, which I guess goes back to Donald Pleasence. I mean, that would be a fun version of it, chat, where it's like Donald Pleasence is the current version. They flash back and it's like Henry Cavill, and it'd be like, oh, then they flash forward and we're like, I guess we see why Donald Pleasence a little upset now. He's like, I had it all back in the day. Hey, but. Maybe Donald Pleasence would just take that role as well too. Just get to method act being Henry Cavill in his past would be kind of interesting, I guess there. But again, then it would be like Henry Cavill, Austin Butler is Jacob Marley at this point, or something like that. I guess bring it if Kaluuya wants to play in a real, I say a real version. And this is obviously a real version for sure. Kaluuya and who do we just say? Austin Butler, or who was the other guy as well too? I forget. Jake Gyllenhaal. Hey, Jake Gyllenhaal and Aaron Pierre are Jacob Marley and and Ebenezer Scrooge. Because if it is them back, if it is them earlier, like building the business, then you get like them walking around earlier London, the top hats and stuff like that for sure, and obviously good suits and stuff. So that is interesting. Maybe some dates. Hey, who's to say there's like a Social Network scene where Marley and Marley and Scrooge like hook up in stalls next to each other? I guess. Hey, Bill Condon, just tune into the live stream. We've got some ideas for you for the Marley musical film. I guess I don't know if we'll be able to write music for that or not. Start asking us for song lyrics might not be the route, but. We've got a couple of spicy scene ideas, I guess, for Marley 2020, whenever that drops. We're invested in the Christmas Carol property, the Christmas Carol franchise, one of the greats. So, and again, one of the greats that does just get remade. So it's not like Elf is it's not Elf is a Christmas story they've been making all these years. Even we haven't like doubled back on Rudolph. Or something like that. Pause. I think just because, like, the CGI stuff, like, in some ways, how are you going to improve on the claymation? Hey, it takes so much work to make the claymation stuff. It's like, okay, let's just keep watching that for a while. But even modern CGI, like, if Pixar made, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, like, it's not going to be a better animated movie than the original, which is, again, hot take, shout out to the original version there. But again, A Christmas Carol does just get remade, so it does have the stamp of approval there. So that's I guess that's why you can call it a Christmas IP, in a sense. Like A Wonderful Life, like they don't remake A Wonderful Life like every 5 years, and they don't even do like I could be wrong, but they don't do like the TV movie or the TV special, or it's like again like we're saying ABC is running It's a Wonderful Life the musical for Christmas one year. Or something like that. Again, why can't we get that? Hey, that'd be kind of sick. We'd be tuning in. But Hey, yo, Chad, this is now we are washed up. We're asking for TV specials. We're like, can you give us a TV special on some of these Christmas stories? But or even a Christmas story as well too. Home Alone again. Some the classic Christmas movies. Like in some ways, you have to be like extra classic. I don't know. But even like a Jingle All the Way or something like that. It's not like they've remade Jingle All the Way, or maybe they have, and it just totally was not totally didn't live up to Sinbad Arnold combo there. I don't know. Again, who is the modern day, Sinbad and Arnold? Hey, that'd be quite the, I guess casting search there. But again, I mean, it's not like they're remaking a ton, which is good, I guess in a sense. We don't just need to be remaking Christmas movies all the time. But there could be a little something going on there. I guess again, if we're just in the remake redo era, in some ways. Maybe there's more older Christmas movies that I'm not thinking of that could use a little bit more of a modern spin in some ways as well too. I'm not sure. Again, obviously there are just, like we're saying, a lot of classics that have been around for a while. So we'll take a look at the Christmas movie industry, while it's the summer. Hey, you thought we were gonna be watching, classic NBA games? You're wrong. We're wondering about the state of Christmas movies, I guess, before we hit the winter months here and lock in. But I guess the holiday season in general, there is that holiday vibe movie as well too. I guess it is to be a Christmas movie, you got to kind of tie it into the season in some ways. Again, even like it's got to be like shopping based, gift giving based, obviously church based. It's something in the lane there for sure. But elf based, I don't know. But I guess Santa Claus based. Hey, maybe I don't know, Santa Claus. I guess people have done like the Santa Claus is like a killer. Hey, I was like, let me pitch a new idea real quick. Santa Claus is bad, but maybe Santa Claus like Heat. I don't know, Heat Santa Claus. There's like a dad slash detective who's like trying to track Santa, or maybe there's like a guy he suspects is Santa. I don't know. Or maybe there's like a Santa stalking the house situation. I don't know, like Santa won't leave after December 31st. Oh, maybe there's something there. I don't know. We could get, see, like Richard Attenborough, he played Santa. He could have been Ebenezer Scrooge too, as well. Hey, I guess I don't know what we're, what are we even asking for here, Chad? I'm not even sure. I hate to be I hate to be so one lane with the names that we're naming there as well. But hey, I guess shout out to John Singleton for talk about Ebenezer Scrooge for an hour before Boys in the Hood Part 3. I guess it is what it is, but it was it's on our mind. I don't know, but I guess it wasn't until we saw that the remake is approaching. But we do have to keep our eye on the movie industry in general. As part-time movie journalists, full-time NBA journalists, part-time movie journalists. We do have to make sure that we do know about this. And again, T West is obviously one of the names for sure to keep an eye on. So, and it is funny that again, like literally, I guess the pause, like the back and forth, like you're never gonna just totally avoid IP in your career at some point, but it is funny to see, again, like which IP the guys do grab as their careers go on, and then just again, it's just like somebody does the movie at some point where it's like, oh, there it is. You're doing the IP movie. It's like right after the franchise that he did, the little trilogy there. Immediately he's got to jump to, something popular. But again, you do 3 original movies. Like he can't go do, his take on A Christmas Carol. So, and then he might go. It doesn't mean he's gonna do, 6 straight IP movies in a row. Like if he, he does get to pursue the projects that he wants to pursue as well too. So I do, hey, I do like to give the creators a break in these days. Hot take, Chad. As a movie journalist, I don't like to just criticize, creators all the time. Hey, that's my that's my stance on the business. But we do have to remember as well too. Hey, wait a second. That the careers are playing out. So, I think that this is obviously something that can be remembered a little bit for like the NBA and the NFL and stuff as well too. But there is just a natural timeline to those sports, obviously. Again, like film careers are, totally different as well too. Obviously, momentum for film careers can change, but just in theory, the idea of, the ability to make movies is just different than, the ability to play basketball or whatever, the ability to play football. Again, there is just a more, finite timeline on those types of things. So I don't know if that, again, changes the evaluation of the year to year for the sport, because again, it's not just like any year, a guy can just blow out his knee and end the sport, but even, retire, just guys just considering the ebbs and flows of their careers, the retirement. Again, even guys playing at the same level as well too, and then once you get there, the ability to like make a movie when you're 60. It's like, oh, this guy hasn't made a good movie for 20 years, but he made it again. Again, that is possible as well too. We've talked about that with hip hop stuff, how we're seeing, we just had this kind of resurgence this past, couple of years of these legends, dropping music. Obviously, like the Clips reuniting and dropping again, is an example of that for sure. Nas has been active this entire, 2020s as a leader in the genre. You have, the Infamous dropping an album, or Infamous, yeah, Mobb Deep. Obviously, rest in peace to Prodigy. You have a Mobb Deep project that is dropped in, the last 12 months here as well too. And, you just get to see like a continuation of people getting to make music, even if the careers aren't like being, held up prime time the way that, they were like forefront, again, not to say that the careers are being disrespected, but, again, there is a different tier that they're in now. It's like a legacy tier more so than like we're saying, run the game type of tier. But, again, it is just different where, if you miss the playoffs in, again, like for the Spurs, as much as we assume because of where the Spurs are at in the timeline, they do have the ability to get back to the finals and, win again. And, obviously add to the legacies in that way. We don't doubt that they're gonna, have that ability going forward. But, it is different. Like, again, it could never happen in the NBA differently than, you never get back to the movie level. You never make a good movie, whatever the correlation is there. So I guess what I'm trying to say is for a guy's movie career as well too, when we start talking about the IP thing specifically, I guess, there is some people that maybe lean into it a lot. I don't know, again, remakes and stuff like that. Again, there does need to be a balance there. But you got to let the creators, be in the process of making the movies as well too. It's like, okay, he gets to I think pursue, a Christmas Carol or whatever, if he wanted to go make like a Transformers movie or something, I don't know. But it's like, does he get to pursue the project? And we have to let him make the project. We have to give him time. So I guess we could see what his next stuff is signed up for. It's like, it turns out, he's doing like, whatever, C tier Marvel movie they're gonna have him do or something like that. Again, there is the lane for sure when you can spiral, I guess, and you do want to see, whatever, just the, fun ideas that the creatives have at some point as well too. But it's like, also, you got to give him a break. You got to let him go do a Christmas Carol, Ebenezer. You got to let him get Johnny Depp in a Christmas Carol and see what's going on there as well too. Like we're saying, Guillermo del Toro's working his whole life to make Pinocchio. You got to let the man make Pinocchio. Hey, even though it is IP, let the man make Pinocchio. Let the man make Ebenezer Scrooge. Just don't get lost, in the IP, the IP ocean of it all. And, get back to shore every once in a while. And, hey, I guess what's the analogy? I don't, how do we keep going with the analogy? I don't know. But, yeah, again, the point is, just don't get lost in the IP ocean there. But, again, if you want to, go make Ebenezer Scrooge once in a while, that is okay. Again, speaking of Singleton, hey, obviously, to bring it all back around. And, again, rest in peace to the legend. But, he did have a franchise movie that he did make. Now, Fast and Furious 2, early in the franchise, it is different because, it doesn't have Vin Diesel, different setting. Like, he does take the franchise in a different way, brings in some new characters for sure. Again, that obviously Tyrese and Ludacris are as important to the franchise as, anybody there. But for, again, it wasn't the same thing at that time, I guess, as it was now. But again, like we're saying, I guess in some ways, Hollywood has been, has had some of the same, habits, through, all the way throughout. But, again, like we're saying, there is the, the ability to do both. Like, he had a great run of, some of the best original movies that we've ever seen. And he's like, hey, let me do a Fast and Furious movie here as well, too. And, again, obviously, Coogler as well, had a run with the Black Panther movies. And, he was able to bring an original take to it. But you still, and I guess even the Rocky franchise as well, too. He got his start. But again, they're like, the Rocky one is like an extension. I mean, you do have Stallone as well too, which does, bring a, very, very, instant crossover there for sure. But it is Stallone differently as well too. And I think Stallone is acting like I mean, it is what it is. You say so much better. I guess I have to go through all of the Rocky movies. But even if we're just going the first Rocky movie to the first Creed, like Stallone is just so much better as an actor in Creed than he is, in the '70s. Maybe I'm like putting Stallone and I'm like thinking of like Stallone in a different movie in Rocky. So I'm thinking of like Stallone in Cobra in Rocky in my mind, or so if that makes sense. But again, I think he's just way more dialed in 2015 than he was a little bit more back then. And it is just he's obviously a trainer more so in that movie, but it's just it's a different character for Rocky. And you have again Creed himself, a whole new different character, almost a whole new world in a sense that you're building. And you do get that literally with Wakanda as well too. In Black Panther, where it's just a different thing than we've seen in a Marvel movie. He gets to have the be able to visualize that country for the first time on screen. So again, literally like we're saying, a whole new world situation there as well too. But again, obviously gets to make the original movies. There's the balance there. So T West, shout out. But I guess if it's like a Christmas Carol 2 or 3, that's where the problem is. If it's now T West is signed up, and we haven't had that yet. That's the thing we haven't had with the Christmas Carol. They haven't franchised out the Christmas Carol, which I don't really know what would happen after that. See, the thing is, like Scrooge, like it would be like take two, like a Christmas Carol 2, Scrooge is relapsed. That would be the lazy Hollywood version. Is like Scrooge, somebody crashed into Scrooge's car a year later, and now all of a sudden, something happened to his house. They crashed into his car, and he like broke his leg, and Scrooge is in a bad mood again. So like we have to send another ghost to refresh. The problem is it's never gonna be as intense. Pause. Hey, yo, whoa, what are we saying? So it would have to be different. It would have to be like Scrooge is like, having to like send. It would have to be the Scrooge Tiny Tim relationship. As much as again, obviously, maybe we don't need that in cinema right now. But it would have to be like, the college situation there. Like he's helping him out. I don't know, or maybe it's like teaching him, to work for his own dollar. I don't know, or something. Whatever old school thing we're doing there. But again, maybe it would be like a, getting him, whatever the Tiny Tim growing up story is, and then. But what I'm really trying to set up is the third movie where I'm thinking of the Teenage Mutant Turtles meme where there is the picture of. Is it Master Splinter? You have Master Splinter as an adult with the baby turtles, and then you have the grown turtles with like an older, withered up Master Splinter. And I'm thinking of that being like the trilogy for A Christmas Carol. Again, I don't know, and maybe that's, I guess, not iconic trilogy stuff, because you do also have the trope where the sequel is better. But I don't know what the second movie is, but the third movie is Tiny Tim now has to take care of Scrooge. Maybe Tiny Tim is an old man. Maybe the third movie is Scrooge has died and Tiny Tim is like upset now. Hey, yo. Like, I guess, we're going to, take out Tiny Tim's whole family. Like, that's tragic, like bus accident, 18, I don't know, whatever, carriage accident or something. What happened there? But, again, like, maybe Tiny Tim is just older. That maybe seems more like a Christmas Carol 4, though. That's like the legacy reboot of this movie. Hey, yo. So, again, I hate to give out ideas, but maybe that's more Marley. Maybe we can, run that with the Marley situation, because we do have, if it's like Scrooge the prequel, and then they kind of do their version of the remake, the original story, and then it's like, like Tiny Tim later on. But maybe that's just a whole other movie as well too. Maybe Tiny Tim is a movie. You just retell A Christmas Carol from the perspective of Tiny Tim. So, I don't know. He's kind of got the, crutch situation. I don't know. Either way, we could talk. We could, Mike, Mike, I love Christmas. We could just talk about A Christmas Carol all day. I tell you what, it's just a classic Christmas movie. Honestly, Chris Collinsworth as Ebenezer Scrooge. Chat, boom, there we go. There we go. We can finally get to watching Boys in the Hood now, because we found the perfect modern day Ebenezer Scrooge. It's Chris Collinsworth. Hey, yo, I tell you what, Mike, I don't need three ghosts visiting me on Christmas. I just am an old man in my ways, and it is what it is. I just watch film and just complain about the world. Hey, yo, that would be, oh, I mean, that is the modern remake. That is the modern remake. Ebenezer Scrooge is like a curmudgeon old football coach. I guess he could be an old analyst as well, too. The profession doesn't really matter, I guess, at some point. I guess having Scrooge like access to wealth at some is kind of part of the movie as well too. But because is the employer employee dynamic I think is maybe a little bit more played out. I guess I have not read the book. I'm just assuming it is from what I just from the bones of the story. Hey, because I mean, I guess they do allude to it in the movie where he's visiting obviously more unfortunate people in that situation financially. Some of the ghosts are taking him around there, but again, they don't really like play out. You don't get into the family. That'd be the prestige TV version, is that you really get into the family, and the I guess I don't know what the name of Tiny Tim's family is. I don't know what the last name, the family name is. I know the employer there. I forget his name. The employee that he has that's always running late. Hey, yo, like, yeah, you know what? Scrooge maybe needs to be a nicer boss. Also, can the employee wrap up time? No, no, we can't criticize him. I mean, a couple minutes late in the morning. What are you gonna do? That's just part of the gig. It is what it is. That's just the buffer zone. But because Bruce Buffer always runs late. So if we, it's that's what we say. Bruce Buffer's always 7 minutes late. So as long as we're to work within 7 minutes of our start shift, that's the buffer zone. But no, shout out to Bruce Buffer. We have no idea if that's true or not. But for what are we saying for prestige? I don't know. We're just franchising a movie that we really don't need to be at this point. But once you get Chris Collinsworth as the lead, we'll have to see. So we don't mean to take Chris Collinsworth off of Sunday Night Football, but we will be contacting Chris Collinsworth as Rem and Sam Media, as we try to pursue a Christmas Carol remake. I've never gotten into acting. I don't know. It seems like a prestigious role to take the first time. I guess we'd have to sit down with him and see. Worst case scenario, we can drop the test footage. Maybe is that a bit, chat? We'll have to see. Stay tuned, chat. We'll see if we can get some test footage for Ebenezer Scrooge on the Rem and Sam YouTube channel at some point. I don't know. Either way, but like we said, this is not about Ebenezer Scrooge at all. This is about Boyz in the Hood. This is about John Singleton. This is about Lawrence. This is about Cuba Gooding Jr. Could Cuba Gooding Jr. be Ebenezer Scrooge? Maybe Ice Cube could. Maybe Ice Cube as Ebenezer Scrooge. I don't know if he has. The thing is, like, the 2010s Ice Cube still had like some energy in movies. I don't know if he has the same like bite in movies that he used to have. Because again, like Scrooge, you do need some of those scenes with him and I guess what are we saying? Him and his work, kind of snapping on the employees or the employee that he has. But hey yo, either way, we'll be back to finally watch the rest of Boyz in the Hood for the part 3 here. Again, in part 1 we watched the first half, and in part 2 we did some more remembering stuff, and now we will actually continue to watch the rest of the movie here on the live stream. We have to have it go the entire runtime here on over the course of what is typically one live stream. But again, obviously, like we're saying, breaking it up this time. But the point is, we do have to get it to the end of the runtime on the live stream to officially, consider the anniversary celebrated. So we will make sure that we officially, commence the celebration. I guess I don't know words, but either way, when we're back, we're watching the rest of the Boyz in the Hood right after this. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, we are back. Boys in the Hood fired up in the background. I think we're gonna make it through this time. I guess I don't want to jinx us, but hey, part 4 is not the worst thing in the world. Like it's the summer. If it's the summer of Boys in the Hood, 27 straight Boys in the Hood live streams, Chad. Who cares? Like we said, otherwise we're just gonna be debating Jordan and LeBron at some point as well too. But we're starting with scene 20. Pulled over. If you have the DVD, I guess to queue up in the background as well too. I guess it doesn't. DVDs don't have the time. Oh wait, minute 72 is where we're at in the the time thing. If you need to move the streaming bar over to match that as well too. But Cuba Gooding Jr. getting stopped by the police as a teenager. Obviously there is the encounter that they have with they are children, but the cop just going crazy in this scene as well too. Just the just announcing directly his hate for Cuba Gooding Jr., his friends, what he's up to here. But the I will say the second half of the movie obviously a lot more serious, a lot more intense than obviously some of the childhood scenes. A little bit of a different tone through the first half. Obviously, the childhood scenes as well too. They find a body, like there's some serious stuff that's going on there. But you do obviously get obviously a run of encounters here in the second half that does increase the tension of the movie. That is for sure. And obviously Cuba Gooding Jr. himself, Oscar level actor for sure. I mean, we were in part 1 of the Boys in the Hood live streams. We were talking about the cast and how many great people got their start in this cast. It's just insane. Probably the #1 movie for launching careers if you really, are just talking about the amount of cast members and also the fact that it's Singleton's first movie as well too. Like just to check all those boxes, like it's really crazy. But again, like Oscar level actors, and Junior in the '90s as well too is a little underrated for people in that tier. And this scene, as well, where in response to the interaction with getting pulled over, is really good in this scene as well. So yeah, obviously his role in Maguire. I was gonna say Academy. He did win Academy Award for Jerry Maguire in '96, and gets nominated Chicago's Critic for his role in Boys in the Hood as well too. NAACP for Tuskegee Airmen and Outbreak in '95, '97, as good as it gets. '98 NAACP for What Dreams May Come. 2000 Men of Honor. Yeah, and he's an American Gangster as well too. And that's right, he's in Norbit. Hey yo, I forgot he was the villain in Norbit. Hey yo, how did he get a Razzie for worst actor in Norbit? Oh, Chad, don't tell me Norbit was nominated for the Razzies in '07. I'm not even gonna look. I don't even want to know. Again, sometimes the Razzies are better than the Oscars. Hey yo, The Fighting Temptations, and his 2000s is iconic as well too. Like obviously, that's a super fun movie. Him and Beyonce, yeah. So that's iconic stuff. I think you probably got to take that role in your career. Oscar. It's like Denzel and The Preacher's Wife. It's like, oh, and I think The Preacher's Wife is maybe a little bit better of a movie, but it's like there's just some co-stars that you got to take a role with. At some point in 2003, shout out, obviously. I guess he also got a Razzie for The Fighting Temptations. Hey, yo, back-to-back, I guess not back-to-back Razzies, '03 and '07, but that might be some of the best Razzie resume that we have for anybody. The Fighting Temptations and Norbit, Chat, those are two good movies. Hey, yo, I'd have both of those in the DVD collection, tomorrow. Hey, yo. But again, some of the more Oscar movies, I guess, in the '90s is obviously helping his resume there for sure. But yeah, I guess I didn't even realize that he had actually won the Academy Award as well too for his role. So Academy Award winner, Cuba Gooding Jr., supporting there as well. I mean, this is him in a leading role, but I think this is like the best version of him in a leading role as well too. Like he never was able to really capture this sort of same thing later on where it was him leading an ensemble cast, because like we were saying, just how much of this cast, just how much star power is here going on. And at the time, again, it's early, and the names still need to become the names that they will. The careers are still to be had at this point. But just again, the idea of him, the story being about him and him being surrounded by a lot of talent. He is obviously, capable of driving this thing like he did here as well. And I guess, ultimately, it is going to be tough, because if he's going for like the real leading man role in the 90s and the 2000s, there, not to be disrespectful, I'm saying the real leading man role. I'm just saying, you think about the other actors that he's going up against that time. Again, you have Denzel obviously emerging at that time, Will Smith in the 90s, Lawrence Fishburne in this movie. As much as Lawrence Fishburne is playing his dad, like, a handful of years later, by 96, Jerry Maguire, could Lawrence Fishburne have been Tidwell? I guess just age-wise, it wouldn't have been, I guess, maybe 96. Maybe they are just far enough that they're not always going for the same role. But I mean, there could be times that he's even going up against Lawrence Fishburne for the same role, as well too. So, again, if it's him in a more specific movie, that does become really, really, tough, going up against some of those really, some of the biggest movie stars that we've ever seen in movie history as well too. Again, even, we're talking about Fishburne, obviously him and Samuel L. or maybe kind of the you don't want to say rivals, but sort of the either or of the time for, going for roles. And again, obviously that's just star power in the 90s that's being absorbed as well too, even if it's, positive, even if it's not, necessarily in generational line with, in like Cuba Gooding, if Samuel L. and like Cuba Gooding are in the same like actor class per se. But again, for him, if he had been in that type, like, could he have been in a movie with Samuel L. at some point and been the main protagonist of the movie, and still, and maybe we might have to go back through the discography. This probably happened at some point, but could he have been the main protagonist and obviously gone toe to toe with Samuel L. Had hold his own in the movie? Again, he definitely could have at some point there in the 90s and 2000s for sure. But again, that's obviously just a crazy time for some crazy names to be competing against as well too. But this is definitely the best version of him as well. Like, I mean, I was gonna do it. I don't know why Rick Barry was gonna be the first comparison that we make for the NBA, but it's like, is there the NBA guy who, maybe if the team, like, I don't know if like Carmelo Anthony would be the right comparison for Cuba Gooding Jr., where it's like, I think that maybe Carmelo Anthony was never quite in Boyz n the Hood as well too for a team. Because I do think that does count as like a title winning team. What was it, like the 09 Denver team? That was one of those Denver teams that was in the Western Conference Finals against, the Lakers, was obviously really, really close to being that. And, obviously, rest in peace, if it wasn't for Kobe, again, maybe Melo is the Western Conference champion that year. Who's to say? And just even Melo being in a finals, what that does for his career. I know if he's in the finals, then, he still probably doesn't. He still probably gets criticized for winning it, or for not winning it if they lose it. At some point, it's probably never enough until you actually win it. And if he wins it, it's probably not enough because LeBron won 4 and he only won 1 or whatever. But regardless, we're pro Melo here, so we'll defend him, either way. But again, if it was that situation, because Melo never played, and I guess cast wise, so obviously we're saying team success wise, some of those Denver teams would have been the closest wise in terms of strength of cast. Again, he never played on this team, which again, we're talking, this is one of the great casts of all time, but never quite had the supporting cast on the same level as much as Billups was really good for them, and Kenyon Martin, and still, like, they had a really, really good team there, obviously. And Melo being the main guy does get a little underrated for just again, being the main guy on a title. People just like, oh, those New York teams never quite got there. It's like, they were eliminated early because they played against, LeBron early in the playoffs. And those Denver teams were every bit as competitive as, those Western Conference teams. And Melo was the best guy there. I guess I'm kind of just going with the Melo comparison at this point. But maybe like Wade, like 2006 Wade, I guess in some ways, again, '06 Miami would not have been the same team as Boys in the Hood as well, too. So that would be the comparison, would be finding the right actual, team. Again, in terms of stacked, roster, you could just say like 2017 Warriors as well, too. The balance, would you go like, the '04 Pistons or something like that, just in terms of, everybody kind of being, more equally responsible for, their roles in that team. I don't know if maybe, 2025 New York maybe gets a little compared as well too. Brunson as Cuba Gooding Jr. Hey, is that Brunson's NBA comparison? He's now on Cuba Gooding Jr. level. I think Brunson's year is probably a little better than a best supporting actor. 96, with all due respect to Cuba Gooding Jr. But that is, I guess, kind of like a first team All NBA, but not quite MVP type of year, which again maybe is like Melo, second, third, a couple times there as well. So I think that's pretty close, anyways. That type of tier. Tracy McGrady, is maybe in that tier as well too. I think Melo is maybe a little bit of a step above though, as well. So maybe I don't know if I'm, how that applies for the comparison that we're saying, but just that level where, again, if it's like, okay, if the talent gets overwhelming at some point, then yes, the team is good enough. But like, you just give Tracy McGrady every star in the league, then yes, he should probably win at some point. But that, that balance of him still being, I guess, the best player as well too. Because even McGrady's, teams were obviously a little underrated, there as well too. Like, yes, he had Yao Ming at some point. He was supposed to have Grant Hill in a maybe more, long-term way as well. Pause. But, chat, and obviously, the fight between Doughboy and Ricky going down. This is where things start to take a turn. Are we gonna have to go like frame by frame through the runaway scene and see what happens there? I think it's been digested a bunch. I mean, not to just skip through the breakdown and obviously oversimplify it. But like we said, at the end of the day, as much as Ricky is projected to be a great running back, USC running back, we don't doubt his abilities. There probably are things that we could go back and look through in the scene to see what's going on there. Like hey Mike, I still don't know a Division I running back that's outrun a bullet. Hey chat, it is what it is. It is what it is. Again, we're not got to be respectful to obviously the situation, but again, as much as we can break it down, if you're getting shot at like that, again, maybe you're probably honestly, as it's 50-50 on you as much as it is on the guy to miss as well too. And again, it's like, you got to do everything you can. You got to, sprint the whole way home. You got to weave, again, go whatever the playbook is at that point. Again, we could, give him the plan. But at the end of the day, you get trapped in the scenario that he's in, and it's just, it's a tragic scenario. So, again, not to skip the breakdown, but, unfortunately that is kind of the more, realistic side of things. But I guess, again, it could be like, follow his blockers. Was there trash cans in the alley? Like, I guess, we could go back and, see all this stuff as well too. And again, obviously what do you say? The pace at which he's, getting back is, maybe could be taken up a notch as well too. See, we do have him, I guess, maybe, eating some hostess cakes here. Again, if we're really, really getting into the breakdown, it's like, is there a world where that's a different snack? Maybe did the hostess cake slow him down at all? Off season diet, maybe he's a little different than the in-season diet at this point. Again, obviously, and the setting up for the testing in the SATs, but maybe there's a little something there. He's not like too far into it, so again, maybe with the bite or two, honestly, the sugar high probably could have helped him at some point. He needs the carbs, he needs the boost to help get away. Again, immediately taking off into the backyard. You run across the car. Again, obviously you're just walking home. There's nothing you can nothing you can do there. Immediately sprint into the back alley. Like, okay, test one good. Splitting up, I guess, is different. Different. And I forgot. Oh, that's right, chat. He has to take a leak. Hey, yo, that is probably one that you do have to maybe go back and reevaluate there. And you do definitely understand the situation, maybe, needing to take a leak in that scenario. If you have, people chasing you down like that. Just the idea that, hey, maybe that's going to make you pee your pants a little bit. But, again, obviously, just change them later. Again, whatever the game plan is there. But that could be one to reevaluate. That's for sure. You knew it was going to be a quicker trip to the store anyways. Is that something that you would have done regardless? Is it, and I guess maybe, again, maybe, maybe we can't criticize him too much, but again, regardless, at the end of the day, that is one where maybe you just got to keep moving as well. The scratch cards is a little different. Again, there is some money on the line there. Maybe you do got to find out. You're closer to this, the store at this point. I don't know if maybe even doubling back into the store to win the scratch cards could help. But yeah, I guess he is standing in the alley, scratching the scratch cards as things happen. So, and see, he ditches everything. So it's not like, oh, Ricky trying to run home and, oh, he's got the stuff. Then again, you say, oh, move chat, hey, yo, but Singleton chat, with the graphics in the 90s as well, too. Obviously, not holding back. And, I'm sure having Ricky in a white shirt there, just for the bullet, carnage effects as well, too. Again, if we could just say from a filmmaking standpoint, again, that would probably be, I'm sure, a choice there by Singleton as well. But hey, Chad, again, you get a guy there with the with the shotgun situation. It is it, it it's tragic. So all right, Chad, hey, we hate to tune in, like we say, right into the right into the serious part of the movie. But for the anniversary sake of Singleton's classic, we do we will watch the movie in its entirety. And this is, obviously, again, a part of the story that Singleton is telling here. And, again, obviously, what to highlight in the scene as well, too, as the movie does take a serious turn. But, obviously, again, the gravity of this scene is as much in the writing and in the story that is being told. It is as much in the performances as well, too, as the actors are giving. And this is, again, a great actor scene. Ice Cube in this scene, and Ice Cube just at the end of this movie as well, too, really does take a little bit of a step up. Hey, obviously, just from an actor standpoint, I guess you're, now from a storyline standpoint, obviously, again, story, acting, scenes, they're gonna have to come from somewhere else a little bit. Obviously, Cuba Gooding and Furious and Lawrence Fishburne, and there's some scenes to happen there as well, too. But you really do see Ice Cube take a step up in this movie. Again, the intensity, obviously, of the moment as well, obviously overwhelms everybody. But, again, for him being, if you're talking like the actor rankings per se, he might not necessarily get like the number one actor rankings for the movie. But, again, he does obviously keep up with everybody in this movie and is just, really good when they need him to be at the, fourth quarter here at the end. And like we're saying, Cuba Gooding Jr. as well too, the mom chat, just the progression through what she is seeing as well too. Again, just obviously, tragic scene, but again, real, heartbreaking performances as well too that are, again, you have to credit the actors for what they are doing on scene here. And just the, again, the emotion of the scene as well too. You kind of, just throw it into the chaos as the scene is, ramped up, as well as, everybody is, digesting what is going on there. And, you got Cuba Gooding standing off to the side as well too. You can already see kind of just like the iciness that has taken effect at that point as well. And just again, Singleton in his bag emotionally here, and then just having the mom turn on Ice Cube as well, and just obviously the grief of the moment is just again, like you know Singleton just crafting an incredible story from start to finish, and every detail throughout is again just the craft that he has here, if you can say. Again, obviously a real weighty situation that he is translating here. And then obviously even as much as Ice Cube later on, and as much as Doughboy's character is the one that carries out some of the stuff, is the one that even pays the price for some of the stuff as well too. In the looking at the movie, it is Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character that kind of initiates the revenge stuff as well too. He's the one that tells Doughboy to meet him at his house there. I guess we're not smart enough to start breaking everything down and connecting the dots and what's this mean for character stuff. But I guess again, he is the one that is starting that up. And obviously I think Doughboy's character and Doughboy himself, I think again, there is probably a path that would have happened there anyways for what Singleton, for the story and for the characters that Singleton is happening. But and again, obviously Fishburne, as a father in this situation, you've got your kid with a gun getting ready to head out the door. Like, what do you do? And obviously Fishburne, time and time again in this movie is seeming like really making the move as the dad. And again, it's like making the right move to let him go out there. You wouldn't even necessarily think that is the case. And obviously maybe there is some of the movie story as well too of again, Junior being the one to double back. But I think again, some of that is obviously Styles in this scene and just in the scenes throughout the movie, planting the seeds throughout. And it even goes back into the first scene as well, where when they bring Trey to live with Furious, and Furious tells him that the people around him don't have and Furious referring to himself, like they don't have him in their lives the same way that Trey does by living with him. And for again, for a scene like this, even though, obviously, Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character ends up going out there, like we're saying, maybe the for the story that, Singleton is telling here, obviously, the presence of Fishburne in his life, I'm sure, in the Styles, father in his life, I'm sure is one of the reasons, why Cuba Gooding Jr.'s character is one of the ones that, turns back later on. But again, obviously, just a incredible emotion through the entire stretch of the movie here as well. And you obviously, again, everything that happens is incredibly weighty. Hey, yo, Chad, I mean, not to pivot away into something, I guess less emotional, but in Trey's room, you've got the basketball hoop hamper. I mean, I might actually do laundry if I had that. Hey, yo, is this a product that we can get? I mean, how is this like not a Nike collab situation that we have everywhere? I mean, can we get the Boyz in the Hood version of it? Would be crazy. I guess it'd be the one that's branded with the movie brand, or the one that's, actually the replica of the one in the movie. Let's see what we got here. Basketball hamper. Hey, yo, chat. Our mom's going to be so proud. She's going to be like, "What is this that I hear? Laundry? Hey, yo. Look at this, chat. Oh, man. I'm going to actually be a productive adult. Look at this. I'm going to have a basketball hoop where I can, throw laundry in. We might actually be able to keep track of our socks. This is unbelievable. I can't believe we've never thought of this beforehand. Also, how do you do laundry? You just throw a backboard up there, and all of a sudden I'm good to go. Hey, yo. This is actually attainable, chat. Is this one 2-in-1? Oh, no way. And it's on sale right now, chat. Is this just Google messing with me? I never even know if this is real. Is this just this? I mean, sales I don't think are ever real. Hey, yo, conspiracy rem in the building. Sales are never real. But I mean, like, what are we doing? Just it just so happens the day that I'm looking up the 2-in-1 basketball laundry hamper, it just happens to be on sale for like $15. Like, what are the odds of that? So this one does have a nice little like, you know, custom wooden backboard situation. Seems a little more interior design esque, but this one obviously seems more functional. I mean, this one's got an actual basketball net that happens with it. Oh, Chad, this is incredible. This is incredible. We might be making an order. I don't know what this $180 basketball shaped Pottery Barn sports hamper is. This might be for a different phase of life. Maybe a decade or so now we're getting the Pottery Barn. Once we start getting Pottery Barn basketball stuff, then we really know that, you know, things are going well. But I don't know what this one is. This looks like a ripoff version that's more expensive. And then there's a Nerf official one. Shout out to Nerf, but unfortunately I'm gonna need something a little more durable than that. As an adult. So this is interesting. This one might honestly be more skill. I'm not sure what's going on here because you have the hamper located beneath the basketball hoop, which I guess is interesting. We could just go get a mini hoop and put it over our hamper as well and just, throw stuff in that way. But I do like the net being connected. I don't know. I like the pile of laundry under the basketball hoop. It's kind of funny. And I guess, if it's on the back of the door, it's not bad. Maybe we need to get a non-see-through version as well. I guess there's nothing wrong with our dirty laundry. It's just the idea. Well, I guess, dirty laundry, but Chad, our stained up laundry. We can't have our stained up laundry out in the open. Hey, yo. So, we gotta have I guess a nice non-transparent bag, I guess is the situation. But we also have to focus on the scene as well too, because again, obviously, like we're saying, we tread lightly with the subject matter that is happening here. Obviously, themes of revenge and cyclical violence and stuff, is not something that we're trying to sit here and glorify. That's for sure. But from a filmmaking standpoint, again, Singleton is able to make this a well-crafted action scene. It is what it is. I remember listening to the Rewatchables episode about this, and listening to Van Lathan, and I'm trying to remember who else was on that as well too. That might have been Logan Murdoch on that one from The Ringer as well. But talking about how this scene is one of, the more rewatchable scenes in the movie. And again, obviously, like we're saying, the idea of what this scene is from a real life standpoint, is, again, it's one of the things that Singleton, you just know that he's crafted a good movie, is he's able to, take a lot of serious real life themes, like we said, and put them into a cinematic way that is quote unquote, entertaining to watch. And this is, literally the best version of that, if we could say best, the best version of that tight roping act. Where again, obviously you have, incredible, subject matter that he is tackling in a scene like this. And somehow there is a nature to this scene that is like an action movie-esque rewatchability to it as well. And we've got the Chicago hat in Compton in the 90s. So again, just showing you, or I guess the 80s. 80. When did we see? Or I guess this part is set in the 90s. The movie starts in 84, right? As we looked up last time, and then goes into the 90s. So I guess again, the power of MJ. The Lakers maybe would have been in a little bit of a slide at that point as well too. And I guess maybe there's probably the Lakers I guess probably don't have blue or red in their colors as well. So, there could be that. Hey, Chad, the LA colorways would be insane if the Lakers did that. I don't want to give them, any marketing ideas. And I guess there is a Minneapolis, sort of version as well too that can be kind of a, maybe a sneaky, thing to use if nobody's thought about it. But, what are we saying for, again, for Singleton, he's just able to, again, keep the viewer through, scenes like that as well too. And then, bring you back into another dramatic, emotional, intimate moment with Furious and his son here as well too. And obviously, Furious still, waiting to see what the, from his son, what, just his son's, involvement in the evening was, I guess. And obviously, again, just the entire situation is, you know, obviously just a heavy situation for everybody involved. Even if it's not just, even if they're not riding, at the end of the night as well too. Obviously, just losing a friend the way that they have is, again, enough to, you know, make the day what it was. But hey, yo, chat. Again, obviously, we get to celebrate a great movie. Obviously, it's the celebration of the careers. It's the celebration of what this movie meant to movies as well too, and what it opened up. And like we're saying, again, just the pathway that it laid for Hollywood, especially in the '90s and into the 2000s. But just the the barriers that it helped break down as well too in the time, and how that stuff is hopefully still obviously you know today, hopefully that stuff is still important as well too. But again, obviously, like we're saying, the the movie itself definitely does take a more serious heavy plot turn as well as it does you know take a ending situation here. And I guess I do have to remember as well too that we are firing up at the end of the movie as well, compared to the like normally, like we say, do the entire rewatch here as well. So I guess from a timing perspective, I'm anticipating more movie here as well. But like we're saying, we are kind of narrowing down the end. And obviously the conversation between Trey and Trey and Doughboy at the end here as well is, again, just another, well crafted, emotional, quiet scene between a couple of guys, again, just, having a conversation, again, just real life conversation. Singleton, amazing in those moments in this movie. And, again, to have Ice Cube as well, too, early on in his career, handle a scene like this is just incredible stuff. Like, this is just a legitimately great emotional scene, emotional ending to the movie, and he legitimately crushes it. And I mean, chat, like, who's more iconic than early '90s Ice Cube? I mean, come on. Like, I mean, obviously, what he was doing in the hip hop world, and then commercially, crossing over into movies at the same time. And Chad, I mean, shout out, obviously he's been iconic the entire time. And I mean, we didn't even know he was going to start the big three at this point as well too. Again, obviously, rest in peace. They do rest in peace to Doughboy is what we're saying. They do let us know Doughboy's fate at the end of the movie. But maybe, Singleton obviously didn't know where Hollywood was going after this. So everybody gets revived. He didn't know Doughboy's probably just going to get revived later on. Doughboy's going to get revived. We're getting the big three. Hey, he's going to start a basketball league. There's a couple other moves that he's got to make. He's going to 21 Jump Street, a couple other things that you don't have to go down there still. But, we didn't even know that 3-on-3 retired professional basketball was going to be in Doughboy's future at this point as well too. Or just imagine, chat, hey, just the entire Ice Cube career. Hey, do we have to do a career rankings at some point? Just the entire where you start entertainment, like what happens afterwards. I don't know, where it's just like best rap, some of the best rap albums of all time, some of the best movies of all time, and like we're saying, some of the, I don't even remember what the other thing was that we had in the list. As the basketball league. Hey, and just starting his own basketball league as well too. That is quite the achievement. We mentioned The Rock earlier. Like, people talk about, The Rock, Kevin Hart. These guys are all over the place, and I guess they do maybe do a little more acting than Ice Cube now. But again, in terms of making moves, I mean, Ice Cube has been the move maker, way before these guys. Ice Cube was was like Kevin Hart, but before Kevin Hart, I guess, in some ways. And I guess a little bit different. Maybe Kevin Hart working up more so through a strict comedy lane as well. But that just shows you what we're Ice Cube more impressive. Hey, more diversity in the lanes that he was being successful in as well. But yeah, I guess Ice Cube never had a what do you say, a show where he interviewed people in cold tubs as well. So I guess Kevin Hart does have that over him there. But hey, yo, Chad, again, once again, like we said, what's the math? Is it 35? Are we getting the years on that right? 35 years later for Boys in the Hood, it's still iconic. And I'm worst case scenario, we got the DVD out of this. Hey, yo, a must add to the pile. I mean, it is one of those movies that is on streaming a lot, so it's not always some of those like constant streaming movies are not always like the first ones for me to grab because again, it's like trying to balance it out as we still earlier on in the collection, getting the collection. We still want to maybe get some ones that are more difficult to access, and we get the ending title with Doughboy's Future. I mean, just have the fade away as well too. Obviously just again, Singleton just crafting an incredible story here all the way through. Trey graduating from college as well. But what are we saying for for I guess again for just shout out. Hey, just Mike, I tell you what a great movie. I tell you what, nobody made a better movie than Singleton. But it is really true. And I guess what we were just talking about how much we were happy to get the DVD because we will definitely wear it out. Hot take. It is what it is. Sometimes when we get one in the DVD player, it's just like, man, we don't want to switch it out. We'll just keep playing that one over and over again. But this is definitely going to be a top tier. And like we said, it is a go-to on Tubi already. I can even talk about, we're the ones watching Boys in the Hood. Yeah, hot take. Everybody is. But it's a classic. So we had to celebrate anniversary week here on the pod. And we had to actually, like we said, get through the entire runtime from start to finish. So we made it to the end of Boys in the Hood, part 3, Boys in the Hood week. Shout out to Singleton. Shout out to, I guess, Fishburne gets the starring name first for the credits. Fishburne, Ice Cube, Nia Long, Bassett, like we're saying, everybody involved. Chad. It's just an incredible project. It's just one of the best of all time. So there we go. Like we said, 35 years later, the anniversary for Boys in the Hood. So we do, I guess, do we have to go through the summer league scores, chat? Hey, we have to have NBA corner. We have to, catch up on the basketball world because we are basketball journalists. So when we return, we will look at some of the NBA stuff that is going on here. Not a lot, but we do have a couple things going on in the NBA world. So we'll catch up when we're back. All right, we are back, and I thought for NBA Corner we were going to get to be really insightful here today. I thought we were going to get to drop some great knowledge. I thought, I was seeing some news. I was like, okay, we have a take here. I was like, I saw this quote. I was like, there's, I'm on to something. I really know what's going on here. I know where LeBron's going. I can see the future, and I should have known that. Of course, Philly fans know when when anybody starts using their team slogans, when people start, saying things associated to the city, but especially when LeBron James, who, is considering to go there, is mentioning their slogan as well too, because that's what I saw. I saw him say something about trusting the process, and I was like, oh, there it is. There's a clue. He's given us a clue. But, and, I guess we should mention, LeBron watch day, whatever. At this point, even the league themselves said they're in LeBron watch. I saw a quote from Adam. I saw, I was on the phone with Adam Silver, and he said that I saw some quotes saying something about the schedule and how the league basically can't schedule opening night at this point or Christmas because they don't know where LeBron's going to play. I mean, again, you could just basically say, here's the schedule with blank LeBron team. And I guess he hasn't narrowed it down enough to basically say, okay, we kind of know enough to what the schedule is going to be. But, again, literally everybody, the league, the entire league is on hold waiting for LeBron to choose. I guess the decision maybe was a little bit of a different timeline, and then him having a press conference there and stuff, and not necessarily maybe narrowing down teams in the same way. I guess we have to go back and double check that. But, what I don't remember if even the league was on hold in the same way. But, again, LeBron, obviously, we could debate player talent. I mean, maybe he was a better player, at that point in his career than this point in his career. But there's no question that LeBron's, a more powerful player at this point in his career than he was back then. I mean, that just goes with how it goes. Obviously, as the time spent, as he becomes the better legacy, but even just as the relationships and, again, as that stuff, as the influence increases there, that's just gonna happen. So, again, it just shows you where he's at this career, that he is still the impactful basketball player, but also, again, this probably most powerful athlete in a league that we've ever seen. Like, they're probably, maybe Messi for the MLS. Like, that probably would be maybe the only other thing. And Messi is now, this World Cup. I don't know if LeBron is rooting for Messi in the World Cup. Because if Messi wins the World Cup, Messi might pass LeBron as the best athlete for the 21st century. But I feel like Messi or LeBron would be a Messi fan. Or maybe he would be like an Mbappe fan or something. LeBron's a big wine guy, so he might kind of like French soccer. I'm not sure. But, he always, we see him posted about greats and stuff. And, it seems like he always kind of sides with the legends when the legends are having great things. I bet we go to LeBron's Twitter feed last time Messi won the World Cup, and or like LeBron's Instagram, there's some Instagram stories of him in some Messi jerseys or something like that. Again, it's like LeBron's definitely like at the Jay-Z concert and also posting about how great watching the World Finals is with Messi, and then also like, commenting on Love Island or something like that. LeBron's pretty active. But what do we, and there's probably other things we could be talking about with LeBron right now, with being in the news for other things. Hey, but pause. But, again, in turn, we'll focus on the decision here on this pod. I guess you can talk about that, there'll be stuff brought up. When ESPN starts talking about the pictures that were dropped from the Time 100 gala, that's how we know the ESPN LeBron coverage is gone. Actually, it's the lack of coverage that has, now the coverage is too much. Hey, I don't know what the metaphor is there, 100%. But, either way, what are we saying for, LeBron making the decision here? Outside of Messi in the MLS, this has got to be the most powerful. And I think LeBron could get to that level in a couple of years. Like, I don't know if the league, maybe it's, I don't know, is this more powerful or not? Like, is the league waiting to add teams for LeBron to retire? Like, do they need LeBron as a non-active player to make him an owner, or can they just do the MJ thing where LeBron chat, I didn't even think about that as an announcement here. Hey, let me rehydrate real quick. This take's gonna require hydration. Hey, imagine the league is waiting to announce their expansion teams right now. With LeBron, imagine Decision 3.0. LeBron gets out there and he's got all the NBA teams or maybe we're down to 3 at this point, because it has seemed like a little bit of a rollout. like, again, we did have, of course, the initial announcement that he's leaving LA, and, oh, the gratitude there, the letter, the thank you, I'm taking my talents elsewhere. And then Rich Paul had like the initial whiteboard, the dry erase board situation, where he had like the original 8 teams or so, whatever, laid out. And then Luke Cornett dropped the voice memos, and then they re-announced the teams without San Antonio. And then he was on some type of like Fanatics event or something. Like Halliburton was interviewing for something. And I guess there have been talks that, it's like, oh, is he going to go to Indiana because he's friends with Halliburton? Doesn't seem like that's the case. But he, I think, name dropped specifically the Warriors, the Heat, and Philly. So I was like, okay, is Minnesota and Cleveland out at that point? I guess would be the teams, and maybe Denver was the other team as well too. Would those 3 teams officially be out? And then he said, trust the process. So it's like, okay, is that the final hint that he's giving us that, he's going to Philly? Is this the rollout to Decision 3.0? Who's to say? But imagine he's got the 3 hats there in the podium. It's like, it's like, oh, it's the college announcement that he never had, because even the Decision 2.0 was not like the announcement. Like, that was going to college, but that's not like announcing he's going to college. So he's got the 3 hats. He's sitting there. He's like, okay, I've made we've really thought about it. We got to do what's best for, me and the family at this point. Obviously, the family's different, but, they're still top of the mind at this point. They have their professional careers, but, we still have to, do what's best for each other, do what's best for myself as a basketball player, trying to chase a legacy. I really want to play with Steph, really want to, have the opportunity to team up and have one of the more special, legacy pairings of all time. We could go back to Miami. I really love living there. South Beach is awesome. They have Giannis now. Or, Philly, I could bring them a title. I really wanted to bring New York a title, but they won a title. So I could potentially bring Philly a title and, go to the Rocky Steps afterwards and celebrate there. But I'm really taking my talents to Las Vegas. And then he breaks out the Las Vegas, Spades hat or whatever the team is called, the Las Vegas Kings. Well, I guess they can't be the Kings because Sacramento's going to be the Kings. So the Las Vegas Diamonds? Hey, yo. Like, they could just be the Las Vegas Diamonds or something like that. Las Vegas slot machines. Hey, yo. Las Vegas slots. I don't know if they could be that either. Hey, yo. But the Las Vegas Sevens? Maybe there's something there. But the Las Vegas Luckies. I don't know if that starts getting into, some sketchy territory as well. But and then he just now announces the league's adding the 31st team. I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to go, but I guess that is a possibility that could happen. But he did say trust the process. So I was like, oh, we're going to be breaking news here. LeBron's going to Philly because he said trust the process. And then we were like, nope. Every Philly fan was like, yes, we think LeBron's going to go here now. So, and we've been saying, like, I think we've been saying every team, like, there is obviously, the teams that he listed, they all did make sense. Even San Antonio, before Luke Cornett got involved, San Antonio did make sense as well. But, again, for Philly, there is that title, that title gap act, thing that he could bring back to them. And for we were saying for Minnesota, is that like sneaky some of the best basketball talent that he could go to with, Ant and LaMelo kind of carrying the regular season there and then helping, provide that veteran, extra level to give them a title. And, it would be the first ever Minnesota title. So there would be some, legacy stuff. And I guess for the city itself, like, I didn't even think about the city angle for Minnesota, because that was the thing with Cleveland and New York. I guess New York hasn't really had that at all, if we're being honest. Like, yes, the Knicks have, we could sit here and feel bad for them. And the New York fans have definitely really been holding on to the lack of success. And I guess because New York is so big, there is like multiple different types of fan bases there, if that makes sense. Hey, what am I saying? I mean, you do have, like, literally, you could have a whole different set of city teams. Obviously, you do have, and I don't know if I'm going to get the exact overlap right, but, you do have the Knicks, the Yankees. Is it Knicks, Yankees, Jets, and then Giants, Brooklyn, and is there another baseball team or something? What about Giants, the Nets, and then the Mets is the other team. Hey, again, not a baseball fan here, but what are we saying? Again, you can be have a whole separate set of teams from New York. Obviously, LA has the same situation going on there a little bit as well too. But again, for New York as a whole, obviously the Yankees have been very, very successful even recently, and the Giants as well too have won 2 Super Bowls in the past 20 years. So the fan base themselves, unless specifically you root for the Jets and the Knicks, which I guess there are people that do, you know, you do have some titles in there. But point being, the city of Cleveland didn't have any titles, when LeBron won for the Cavs. The Browns were terrible, and the baseball team was really, really close there against the Cubs, but unfortunately, they lost. So it was the first time the city as a whole was able to have a championship celebration basically since the Otto Graham days. And I don't even know if they were having parades back then, for anything good. And basically, Minnesota is a little bit in that similar standpoint as well too, because the Vikings have been, one of the more unlucky franchises in, the entire history of the league. And the Twins, I guess, well, let's look up the Twins here real quick and see, have the Twins won a World Series? I genuinely do not know if they have or not. I know there have been some, teams that have, we have like I guess the Braves aren't like a low key team, but like the Braves won a World Series. I know the Kansas City won a World Series a handful of years back as well too. So I don't know, did Minnesota sneak in there and get a win? Let's see what we have here. Oh, AL. Oh, we have 2 leagues to sort through. We don't just have World Series. Hey, yo, chat. I guess the World Series is probably its own page. Let's see if we can find that here real quick. And I guess, we could just look through the teams and see Minnesota would still be, a team listed there. Either way. So let's see when the last time they would have won, if ever. I guess we can just go back through their team history as well too. Oh, wait a second. They won the AL pennant in 91. Okay, wait. Carl Ripken Jr. MVP, I guess doesn't mean he was on the team. Just the league stats at the time. So that was the last time that they were in the championship. And again, I guess there is a little bit difference in baseball. The conference championship per se is a little bit more important than the pennant. So yeah, they've won 6 pennants and 3 world championships. So not the most recent players. They did end up winning the World Series that year in 7. Hey, yo. And they won in 7 and 87 as well too. And then they also won, I guess, in 1924. Hey, yo. So, as a totally different team as well too. The Washington Nationals. So the Minnesota Twins, I guess, used to be the Washington Nationals, but isn't the Washington Nationals a team now as well too? So they don't have their own history. Hey, yo. Wait, let's see what's going on here. Washington Nationals. Yeah, the Washington Nationals actively now start in 1969. But the Minnesota Twins used to be the Washington Nationals. I guess that is a little like Houston, Tennessee in the NFL, where I guess I was going to say like Baltimore, Cleveland, but not really, because when Cleveland, Baltimore moved to Indy. So the Colts, I guess maybe it's a little like that, but again, it's still the Colts. So it's not like they had the Ravens history. The Baltimore Colts are also the Indianapolis Colts, but the Baltimore Ravens are also the Cleveland Browns, but they didn't keep the Cleveland Browns history. They became the Baltimore Ravens. And then the Cleveland Browns reactivated a couple years later and just restarted the Cleveland Browns. So I guess Minnesota, again, took the Washington Nationals, and then the Washington Nationals had a new team. Or I guess they became the Senators there as well too. Hey, yo, Chad, that's that's a little too specific for a sports team. I like that we tried that for 4 years and we're like, nah, we're good. We can't have the Senators. There's no team now that would do that. Hey, yo, it's just gonna be like the new team. I guess I say that now, and the Las Vegas team's gonna be like the Las Vegas Governors or the Seattle Governors or something like that. Hey, yo, it's like the Wizards are relocating. That's really what it would be. Is the Wizards are being set up to relocate to Vegas. LeBron is going to own the Wizards like Jordan did, but he's going to relocate them to Vegas. They're going to become the Vegas Wizards. They'll keep the Washington Wizards history, and then Washington will have a new team. They'll be the Washington, I don't even want to guess. I don't even want to make a joke of what they'll be, but, we know who will try to get their name there, but they'll be like the Washington, the Washington congressmen. Hey, yo, the Washington judges. Like, I don't, hey, yo, like the Washington Senators. is interesting. Like, Washington Nationals is just like, that's pretty vague as well too. I guess you could make that specific if you're a jerk, but obviously it's not supposed to be. But I guess the point is the Twins won a couple of World Series there in the 90s is the point. So and the greater point is, there is one more team we do have to check. We do have to check the hockey team. I do want to say that this is the Wild. I I guess I'm less familiar with this team than I even am the Twins. Hey, yo. But yeah, and the Minnesota Wild are newer. Okay, they have been around since 2001, so they're a little like the Texans, I guess, of the NHL for the comparison there. Yeah, they have not won an NHL Finals as well, too. Have they won a conference championship? 0 Stanley Cups, 15 playoff appearances. Their best one being lost in the conference finals in 02-03. So was that their second year in existence? Hey, yo, third season ever. They went to the conference finals and they haven't been back, Chad. Hey, yo, they haven't necessarily been great the last couple of years as well, too. Not to call it the Wild, but the point is, LeBron does have a save the city element for Minnesota. And I guess thinking about that, the triangle anyways, and again, Minnesota may be out of the list at this point as well too. Thinking about the Minnesota, New York, Philly triangle that always gets mentioned, but like we're saying, New York does have the segment of fan bases that would potentially have not experienced the finals. If you are a Philly fan, like the Philadelphia city has been successful, so I think that does make the Philly basketball success a little bit different. Like, I think, because I have been trying to think about why Philly hasn't been the same sort of basketball desperate that New York has. Like, again, like, the New York Knicks fans were, like craving a title. Like, I mean, as much as, San Antonio fans wanted to start this new era with Wemby, and as, I think I'm, as competitive a fan as anybody and, like, wanting their team to win a finals, like, I can't 100% say with confidence that I wanted my team to win more than a New York fan did this year. I would like to think that I did. And, I'd like to think that we've complained enough to, over the course of the last live streams, and we still keep bringing it up that, maybe prove some of that there. But, again, just watching the videos and stuff of the fans in the streets, like, again, they were, the passion was evident. And again, the drought is, something that you cannot replicate. Like, San Antonio fans can't replicate that. We can replicate the fact that we want this team to win, but we still have 5 titles that we won this century. So, you can't take that away from us unless, insert the Norm Macdonald joke there, I guess. But what are you saying for, I guess anytime you say the phrase, can't take that away, unfortunately, Norm Macdonald, seeing that clip from him at the ESPYs, which I guess the ESPYs did just happen. We need to go look up the Marcella, what are we saying, monologue for that and see, see that there. We haven't got a chance to tune into any of that stuff there, mainly speaking because turns out, the New York team just gets honored with every single honor. Hey, yo, was there no other sports performance that was impressive this year? Just the Knicks, it looks like this year? Just them beating the San Antonio? I guess that goes to, that proves how good San Antonio is, right? Because it was them being impressive. But that's the thing, it's not even that. It's not like, oh, they slayed the giant in San Antonio, like, let's, award New York. It's more so, again, them breaking their championship drought. But like we're saying for LeBron, Philly as a city doesn't have that. The Eagles are have been the most stable franchise of the decade here in the NFL. And I believe the baseball team, to go back to baseball, I believe the baseball team won a World Series within the last 10 years as well, too. So that's 3 city championships within the last 10 years. And again, we could, make the case for New York. But I believe here, we'll look up actually the Yankees real quick. The Yankees might be a decade plus removed. They may be getting 20 years from a World Series. Oh, wait, we have one here in 2009. So we are, in the 15-year territory anyways for the Yankees. That is still enough to where there is enough of the fan base at that point. The younger fans haven't, they're not too far removed from seeing a title to think that that never would happen as well too. Like, I wouldn't say that the baseball fans specifically there, but again, like the Mets fans, like if you were a Knicks, Mets, and Jets fan, you would have not seen a championship for a very, very long time because I guess they would have not won since '86. So, and then again, the Jets hadn't won since, the '60s, and the Knicks hadn't won since the '70s. So for that specific New York fan, again, maybe it is a specific fan, but New York is also expansive enough that is a good fan base as well too. As not just the New York Knicks fan, but that specific set of teams itself as well. Again, if you're talking about like the REM specific set of fandom, like who is a Colts, Spurs, and Michigan Wolverines fan, that's a less specific, group of, people. But, obviously, again, that New York fan, I think, can be represented on a whole in the sports league, in the sports fandom specifically. But, again, they would have been, 50 years since they've won a title almost at this point. Like we're saying, Philly, just the NFL team alone, has not had that. I mean, Villanova won a title here within the last couple of years. I mean, they've had that. New York doesn't really have any, NCAA teams as well, too. They're, they all suck. Hey, no, they just, I guess, more NIL or something. Who's to say? But, more spending. But what is the name? Is it the Philadelphia Phillies? It is. That is literally their name. Hey, 1883? They've been playing baseball since this country started? Hey, but they haven't won a world. Oh, they did win in 2008. Okay. Oh, I guess we're looking at the Phillies, not New York. So yeah, I guess the Phillies won in 2008. So I guess that's not recent. Oh, they lost the World Series in 2002. Okay. So they were there, but the Astros won in 6. But, again, at least that is some, success there for the franchise a little bit more. And again, like we're saying, the Eagles themselves, like the city doesn't feel like they have to be excluded from winning because the Eagles have been so stable as of late and have captured, 2 Super Bowls as well, too. So there are legit championship experiences that the city has had. Now, do you want the basketball team, if you're a Philly fan, do you want the basketball team to win? Yes, you do. But you don't have the same desperation as, again, maybe a half of New York fan. Let's see if we can lock this in. We should know this. But, again, maybe it is just specific to the person as well, too. Hot take. But New York sports fandom divide. Let's see what we have here. So the primary divide, 2 classic alignments. I like that it has it like split here. Like the map. Hartford, what's this? Fenway, Boston. Red. That's a Red Sox Yankees. I was like, what is this map? Okay, we had the legacy squads, the Yankees, the Giants, and the Rangers. And then the underdog squad, the Mets, the Giants, and the Islanders. So that's the problem, is all the underdogs got, lumped into one fandom there, I guess, as well. So wait, but does that mean, so that means the Knicks have to go in the legacy squad is essentially what it is, right? And then the Nets go into the underdog squad. But the problem is, again, shout out the Rewatchables pod, shout out the Big Picture. The host, one of the hosts there, Sean Fennessy, is what we're talking about, a Knicks, Mets, Jets fan. So that might be specific to, listen to him complain while they're talking about movies. But, either way, I feel like for New York, that is a larger, segment than just the quote unquote, random fan base. Because again, it is like, a team specific. It is a city specific as well, too, even though there is multiple options that could be mixed and matched. So the point is, maybe Minnesota, which was already kind of moving into number 2 on our list, maybe they've moved over Golden State for us for what, point being, going back to LeBron. Where LeBron should go. I mean, Philly is, maybe the path makes more sense for Philly to, from a basketball standpoint, again, being in the East. If LeBron goes to Philly, like, they're probably a better team in the East than Minnesota is in the West, but I think it is close. Because again, OKC and San Antonio is going to be the problem as well, too, but the non-biased, route we'll say is OKC is still going to be a problem if LeBron goes to any team in the Western Conference. Again, worst case scenario, you play OKC in the finals if you're Philly, but at least you're in the finals and maybe you get a little, first time back since Iverson. I don't know. But, again, for Minnesota, like the Minnesota City fans, I think they would embrace LeBron a little bit more than the Philly fans. I think the Philly fans would love LeBron. Hey, yo. And again, like there was the teasing, like I know LeBron's been teasing New York fans, but again, they don't probably, not to say that they don't want him now, but it's more a LeBron join us than like LeBron, we need you situation the way it would have been in the past. Again, LeBron, he wants to be needed. Hey, yo. But, again, Philly fans, as much as they would want and need LeBron, I think the Minnesota fans would, as a city, embrace him more. There would be like maybe banners, billboards, be like, well, the mayor might, have like a press conference and give him like a key to the city. I don't know. Again, this would be before even winning the title. Obviously, if he brings a title to Philly or, if he brings a title to Golden State or Miami again, that'd be awesome. And they would, celebrate him. And I guess because he's already won titles in Miami, if he went back and, same with Cleveland as well, too. But if he went back to Miami and won another title, it would make him, even more. That might actually bring him past Wade at that point. So, he could reclaim, he could be like the number one player in two franchises. I mean, you could argue in some ways he maybe is, but I think Wade still is the number one Heat if we were, talking about the entire career spent for that specific franchise. But, maybe he would, steal the franchise from Wade, in some ways there. I don't know. Or Wade would give him the franchise. Wade recruits him this last time and then takes credit for it. I don't know. But, again, I think maybe, it would be like, would Justin Jefferson, like, be pulling up courtside? I guess, do you need Justin Jefferson courtside of the game? But the point is there would be like, the Vikings fans embracing the Timberwolves title in a way that I just don't think the Eagles, the Eagles specific fans would. Or maybe the Phillies, the baseball first fans would. Or the football fans first would. Again, the football fans first for New York. Now, in basketball is more of a New York sport than it is a Minnesota sport. Hey, if that makes sense, what are we saying? But I think maybe, football, hockey, basketball, the baseball, like it could all be the favorite sport in the Midwest. It's not like there is like, the same way that basketball is sort of integral to the New York story as well too. Not to be basic, but it is what it is. Like if we're just talking about a sport correlated to the city, like that is probably going to be the one. I mean, baseball is, there as well too. But I think if we're talking about, and that's just our relationship to this, the stories that we pursue as well too, being the basketball fan. But I do think that the basketball story for the city is, more important, more important than the sport as much as, again, maybe you would say the fandom of the Yankees could rival the fandom of the New York Knicks. The playing of the sport actively in the city, I think would be, would go to basketball there. But yeah, I honestly think, again, I went into this process. Hey, talk about us making our decision like we're LeBron here. I went into this process thinking it'd be Philly. But again, once they got Jaylen Brown, it was like that would really make a lot of sense. But I've kind of talked myself into Minnesota, and obviously the LaMelo part of that, has changed that as well too. But that would be, I think, legacy-wise at this point, if that's what we're judging, maybe not 100% the basketball scenario, maybe Philly still does win the basketball scenario and, again, does give you, enough of the legacy boost there to, win you over. But I think the legacy move for LeBron would be to go to Minnesota. And, that'd be tough for our guy Kevin Garnett, if LeBron won the first title. There obviously have been Minnesota legends there in the past. I guess Kevin Love. Hey, obviously maybe, Garnett, the first Minnesota legend not named Kevin. Hey, yeah, we've never correlated that to the city before, I guess, or the basketball team. But who? Kevin Love, Kevin Garnett, Kevin Rubio, is that one of the guys? I'm not sure. But, Kevin James, I guess, is now going to lead the team to title. Can he change his name to LeKevin James when he goes there and wins the title? I'm not sure. But I think that would be the legacy move for him, would be to go to Minnesota. So I don't know. Maybe the problem is I've, been thinking about the LeBron decision too much for him. Like I've changed my own mind about it now. But I think that's maybe considering more pieces of it as well too, because I wasn't considering the city piece of it as a whole. I was just looking at the basketball piece. But, again, you do have this sneaky sort of second New York fandom. Philly doesn't have a second football team for teams to root for and be like, oh, the Eagles are just winning titles every year, but the Jets are, the Philadelphia Jets are just bad. It's like, no, if you're a Philly fan and you root for the city team, you're doing well off there. And, you're fortunate that Howie Roseman's just, winning against every trade that he ever makes. But so, maybe you get Howie Roseman in to get LeBron into the Eagles. That'd be the last move, I guess, that they have to have happen. But I think Minnesota maybe takes the number one spot. I don't know if this is our final LeBron updated power rankings because we don't know when he's going to make his decision. So I'm sure we could, have time to think about a new way about why a team is, going to be number one. But, from a basketball standpoint and a legacy standpoint, I think that I will say, I guess from a roster standpoint and from a legacy standpoint, because if we divide up basketball standpoint, there is the roster that you go to, but like I'm saying, there is also the pathway that you give yourself. And that would be the third factor that, I guess it would be, is the Minnesota legacy boost enough to outweigh the Minnesota pathway versus the Philly pathway is easier, but the legacy boost might not be quite 100% as much as it would be in Minnesota. Even though, again, the basketball team hasn't even been around as much as Philly has. Philly hasn't won a title longer than Minnesota has been around as a basketball team because it's been the 80s for Philly, and Minnesota, I think, was formed in the 90s. But, again, regardless, as a city, like we're saying, Minnesota goes way back as a team to never win the Super Bowl. The Wild, I guess, have, also as a newer-ish hockey team have never won, and the Twins have, been in a little bit of a drought as well too. Doesn't look like they're, providing the city with a ton of, time again sports memories as well. And I guess is there a fourth team that I'm missing? Football, basketball, baseball, hockey, MLS, the ladies, again, I'll just whatever the sports are. Oh, chat. Oh, cancel me now. Cancel me now. Because they did win a basketball title this past year, right? Did hey yo, and then we'll just pivot to the NBA after that. On that note, LeBron should go to Philly. Hey yo, is that what it is? Did the link just ruin our legacy take? Yo, do we divide it? Is it? I guess that wouldn't count, right? That would be bad, a bad take if we divided it, men's and women's titles like that. The link have 4 titles. Hey yo, so they are like the Eagle. I guess. Wait, they lost in the semis last year? Oh, okay. So at least within the last 10, they only have the one, but they were pretty dominant there. 2011, 13. I guess, is that Maya Moore? Oh, chat. How could I forget about Maya Moore? Hey yo, Let me see. It is, chat. It is. Did she win 4 titles in 5 years? Hey yo, what a run. What a run. So I guess, unfortunately, LeBron wouldn't be the best athlete in Minnesota since Maya Moore. So never mind. Philly's back up. Oh, Philly, that was close. Hey, yo, this is why you trust the process. Because you think about all the great Minnesota athletes. Does LeBron have a chance to step right in? And then you're like, oh, wait a second. They had Maya Moore. I guess he's, unfortunately, LeBron can't. I hate to say it. And maybe this is the last motivation he needs for his career. I don't know. This is our version of the Cowherd clip right here. I'm gonna cue it up. So in 2016, Cowherd was like, oh, Ben Simmons is being drafted into the league. Ben Simmons, when he was entering the league at that time, was of course being compared to like Magic Johnson, but also LeBron as well too. Mostly Magic Johnson because of the 3-point abilities, but there was also like some of the playmaking and the forward size that was being compared to LeBron as well. But Cowherd, of course, has the infamous rant where he says, LeBron, we're good. You can retire. Which 2016, LeBron had been in the league for like 13 years at that point, so that's still like not like a ton. But, again, the Cowherd's ready to send him off. So he's like, LeBron, go ahead and retire. We have Ben Simmons in the league. Ben Simmons is going to, take the spot in the league that LeBron James occupies. Both, I guess, not just from a basketball standpoint, but I guess Cowherd was also talking about from like a cultural standpoint as well too, which maybe is, Cowherd, saying something problematic. But, again, it's like Ben Simmons, there's no way Ben Simmons was just going to step in and occupy the celebrity space that LeBron occupied as well too. But I guess from a basketball standpoint, he was going to take over there. But, but the point was more so that 10 years later, we're still sitting here. Ben Simmons is talking about returning from basketball retirement, and LeBron James is, still playing. So maybe this is our version of it. We're basically, we doubt LeBron, and then a couple years later, we look back and go, oh, wait a second, we were way wrong. I think, again, a less serious version of it, but I don't think that LeBron has the runway to catch Maya Moore here if we're just talking Minnesota specific success, because she won 4 titles, 6 All-Stars, won an MVP as well, 2-time All Defense. I mean, he could go to Minnesota and play 4 years and win 4 titles in a row, but I don't know if he's going to play 4 more years. So it would have to be 4-4. Maybe he plays 5 and wins 4-5. But again, he would have to maybe win 5-5 to pass Maya Moore. He would just tie Maya Moore in terms of titles there. And she was, the best player powering that title team, arguably the best player in the league at the time, again, because she's first team All WNBA, as well, Defensive Player of the Year votes. I mean, she can get a bucket whenever you need to. 45-38 percentages, 18 points a game. Hey, yo. So, and as much as maybe other Minnesota athletes outside of LeBron, if he does go there, would have better careers as well. So like Fran Tarkington had a longer career. Does Justin Jefferson have a longer career in Minnesota? I guess if he doesn't get traded, who's to say? But, again, for in terms of bringing a championship there, that would obviously fast track him to getting up the list. But nope, we were wrong, Chad. We have to stand corrected. We have to correct ourselves when we need corrected. I'm sure it's a lot more than just this time. But, Maya Moore in Minnesota, they have won a title recently, so we do have to give them that credit. So Philly, there is a similar tier that they are in there as well too. But, in terms of, again, the popularity of the league, you do have to, obviously, say, where the league was at in the 2010s compared to, where the Eagles have been at winning their Super Bowls as of late. Not trying to be disrespectful, but just looking at sort of the impact of the city. And again, not to imply, I guess, that they're not impactful to the city. So that's where we probably just need to get corrected again as well too. But, again, I guess it is equal bringing the championship back to Philly or Minnesota, basically, even though Philly is a little bit newer with the Super Bowls there. But the path would, I guess, that does bring the legacy bar down a little bit for them there. And in the debate that we're having, I think Philly does remain. So trust the process, Chad. It does seem like it is the right move to make there for him. But I guess I don't even know, summer league scores. Hey, yo, again, we're in our old man era, so now I just look at summer league games and I just have no idea who is playing. But I did see Keaton Wagler out here for the Clippers. So he was Chad. Hey, yo, I hate when we go to scores. We should go to summer league scores. It is what it is. It is what it is. But yeah, Wagler was out here for the Clippers. I guess I haven't been paying attention enough to see his performance. Hey, yo, locked in journalist over here. But at least he's out there. So, I think that tells you enough about the performance, right? For summer league, I guess if you're out here in game 4, what does that mean as the rookie? But I think he's been playing well. And, his offensive game is a little more developmental than, again, that first 4 with Peterson, I guess not in order, but, Dembasta, Peterson, Boozer, and Wilson. Even if Wilson's offensive game, we didn't expect it to be this efficient right away, even from a summer league standpoint, I think his defensive playmaking, instant impact is a little bit more expected / measurable in year 1 than, Keaton Wagler. I guess we have him at 24 points right now for 9 for 16. And they are obviously, actively trying to trade Kawhi Leonard. So it's not like this is hey, can Keaton Wagler with Darius Leonard be like, can he be the third guy as a rookie next to Kawhi in the playoffs? Because if they did have Kawhi, there would be those storylines. And, Darius Garland's a good, guy to have on your roster as well, too, in terms of building forward and, having good, competent players in place. You're definitely, lucky to have him around as your point guard for sure. But, having Darius Garland as a piece of your roster, it's not like the Clippers have to be in win now mode necessarily. Worst case scenario, they obviously have a valuable point guard asset that they could use to help, increase what they have for their tanking timeline. Or, they have a good duo for the next couple of years in Wagler and Garland as well, too. But, 6 for 19, 24 is definitely, starting to look pretty decent as well, too. Again, do you want everybody to be, 10 for 15 for 35 points for Keaton Wagler? I guess, sure. But, the playmaking as well, too. You kind of want to see that get up there because he is going to be kind of a run the offense type. So 1 assist is not great. 1 assist to 3 turnovers is not what you want to see. Again, that balance is, I think, going to be important for him because our comp for him, and I don't know if this was a common comp for him throughout the draft, but our comp for him was Trae Young. And, as much as he might have a couple of, pause a couple of inches on Trae Young, I think Trae Young is a better playmaker and a more dynamic shot maker than Keaton Wagler was as a freshman. I mean, Keaton Wagler had a crazy game. He had some crazy performances. So, he could get to heat check levels that would be equivalent of Trae Young heat check levels. Like, I guess their ultimate heat check ceiling is the same. But in terms of the consistent game-to-game play and how much offense they could be responsible for, Trae Young, we have to give him credit, was responsible for a little bit more. And again, was just a 10-assist playmaker time and time again. I mean, still is. But that is one of the reasons that he can still be a valuable guy, on the court and maybe not have some of the, positive defensive stuff that, maybe Wagler can provide that as well too. You see him have a steal and he even has a block in there as well. So again, there is a defensive ability that he could have to his game that would maybe not make him liable there. But if he's going to be that run the offensive type of point guard, he's either going to have to be, again, a crazy efficient scorer or able to, get guys involved and be better as well too. Oh, chat. No, did we just hit him with the jinx? There's no way. There's no way, because the minute we start talking about him, he slips on the floor. Is he even out there still? He might just be, we might just have him shut down for Summer League. Oh man, Clippers fans are bad. We didn't mean to scare you with your first round pick. Future of the franchise. I mean, the first time the Clippers fans have been like, okay, we can finally reset and feel good about the franchise direction here for the first time in 5 years. And now all of a sudden we mentioned, Keaton Wagler briefly looking up his box score and he's, tearing his knee. Hey, yo. You hate to see it. But all of a sudden we've got a McGregor situation here with Keaton Wagler. Hey, yo. What is that? What is that? He just randomly slips on a spot in the floor. We're like, oh, Keaton Wagler, he's playing in Summer League. He's the last guy left from the top 5. And then the minute somebody, did somebody spill a drink? Was somebody sweaty? What happened? That's the ultimate bad luck. Hey, yo, chat. And is this Vegas Summer League here? What's going on, Vegas Summer League? I guess this is the night game. But I got to say, the Vegas Summer League game's a little light this year in attendance. So I don't know. Maybe that sets us up good for next year. We're going to get a little discount on the tickets. But it seems like the games are usually a little fuller than this. Pause. Again, this game's a 3-point game. This is a battle right here. Hey, yo, and we've got a number 5 overall pick. So maybe the earlier games were more full. And we weren't just locked in on the audience. We had the World Cup in some of those early Summer League games. So unfortunately, our attention to Summer League wasn't top tier. It is what it is. But I mean, we're gonna have a closeout situation. The Clippers with a 3. Ooh, tough stuff, chat. That 102-96 may help them there. Keep them at a distance. But I guess the Minnesota's about to score again, make it 98 to 102. But regardless of what we're, hopefully Wagler is, healthy, okay, long term. Again, he'll probably be done for he'll be done for Summer League now. It is what it is, even if it's just a precautionary situation. But hopefully he'll be okay for the start of the season there and be ready to go. But in terms of other performances here as well too. Oh, our guy Mogbo, chat. Hey, yo, I still have stock. Jonathan Mogbo, is it Baylor, I think, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly. And we got Steinbach for Charlotte. Hey, yo, 7 for 10. Just another efficient player they can, not to use, I guess, basic terms to, break it down his game. But, if we do look at his box score, that's what it does say there. And, obviously, have Knuppel. They trade LaMelo. So, another sort of efficient playmaker they can move there. It was Salon 5 for 9. I guess 0 for 3 from 3. But at least, his other baskets he was creating there. And 5 for 6 from the free throw line. 8 rebounds, 4 turnovers. But -3 in the game. Hey, yo. Everybody else in the starting lineup, positive. And they also did take Christian Anderson. That's right as well, too. So again, speaking of trading LaMelo, a lot of that was due to, I think, the Kobe White retention. They traded for him in the middle of the season and then, signed him to a contract there. So he'll be the starting point guard. But Christian Anderson as the sleeper backup guy slash, maybe long-term option if things didn't go right with Kobe White is, a plan that I would support as well too. Again, 1 for 6 from 3, but he definitely does have the offensive potential there as well too. Sacramento, no Darius Acuff for Sacramento, so I guess there's 30 shots to go around here tonight for them. Caravan 6 for 12. Again, seems like a guy that we would have maybe wanted on like a win now team as well too, just being in UConn over the last couple of years. But I guess that maybe means that Sacramento's building the culture in the right, well, not building the culture in the right direction, but just taking guys from win now teams that maybe that aren't going to help him in the future. I don't know, but he just seems like a guy that has helped UConn out the last couple of years. Hopefully he's able to help out a Cuff as well too. And Emmanuel Sharp, was he a first round pick or second round pick from last year? Let's see if we can look up his page real quick, because I think he's a Houston player, or is he a rookie this year as well? Let's see. Emmanuel Sharp. How much expectations should we put on him here? Is it first round pick? What's going on? Let's see here. No basketball reference. Oh, just 1M was the situation. Okay, here we go. I guess hasn't really gotten NBA run at this point. Okay, yes, second round pick, 45th overall. So I guess, we're probably more familiar with him from the Houston days at this point. Yeah, 15, 12, 15 points a game. So he was an important piece of that Houston team. I'm not necessarily misremembering that, but I guess, we're getting a little extra run here in Summer League as well. 5 for 12. So, we'll see. He might be, helping out the Granite Bay Kings, but Bulls versus Cavs. I think Caleb Wilson has earned his exit from Summer League here as well. We don't see him anymore listed. Thomas for Cleveland, 10 for 20 tonight. Oh, they also have our former Spur Branham as well. We have to make sure as former Spurs, we cheer for the success, but if they play too well, it's like, oh no, we should have kept him around. 5 for 9, 1 for 3. Okay, not bad. He is efficient, I guess, part of the game. Yeah, Malik Thomas, 3 for 8. I believe the Arkansas prospect next to Acuff, who, maybe a little more complimentary game than McCuff if you're evaluating it, but has some of the same, playmaker abilities as well too, and I guess has the shot attempts here in Cleveland. Speaking of McCuff, but maybe he'll be able to kind of slot in next to Mitchell as well, and hopefully complement him there. Kennedy Chandler, former draft guy that were, I guess, names that we remember. 4 for 8, 1 for 3 tonight. So we'll see, I guess, if his role player minutes are being earned here in Summer League at all. But for the next game, we had Heat versus Pistons. Our guy Donaldson, who has been one of the sneaky performers of Summer League. Again, as we keep saying, monitoring the Heat team to kind of see who the guard that is going to emerge. And they were, they introduced Giannis, they introduced Bobby Portis in the press conferences and stuff recently. They were showing some of the press or some of the lineups, the potential depth charts during the game. And I guess Conwell is, no longer playing as well for Summer League. But Donaldson has been good. And tonight is exceptional performance as well. 20, near triple-double, a near quadruple-double if you include the turnovers. But 20 points, 8 rebounds, 10 assists. Like, he's going to be a legit, fourth guard for them, / times when they need him to be a third guard in the regular season, due to injuries and stuff. And I guess Trey White as well, too. We do also have to shout out number 78, Trey White, 4 for 9 from three-pointer. Hey, 7 for 13 from the field. So I don't know, is this like a stretch 4 situation here? We had a number 50, a number 78, a number 73, and a number 57 tonight. Honestly, this Miami team might be the highest cumulative jersey number team of all time I guess Summer League is generally that, but yeah, even the starters, you still get, 13, 20s, some generally normal numbers. Even the 30s are, normal basketball numbers. I mean, 34, 32, 30. Those are all, those three specifically are pretty common. I mean, 30, Curry is 30. There are so many guys that have been 32 and 34 throughout NBA history. 32 is, one of the great NBA numbers. 34, I guess maybe I'm kind of maybe mismatching the two, but I feel like 34, maybe Shaq wore both. I'm not sure, but I feel like there's some good 34s as well. But easily, hundreds and hundreds of numbers total here. I guess we have 7 and 8, kind of bringing it down with Conwell and Keels. But I mean, multiple 70s. Hey yo, I don't know if we've ever had a 73, a 74, we have a 70, a 73, 74, 76, 77, and 78. I don't think we ever had that many 70s on one roster at the same time. So what is this? The big three? What is this, an Ice Cube team, chat? Hey, yo. Hey, yo, that's almost a closer right there. It would have brought Shane Gillison to write that one. That's an ending joke, but we have another box score to look at here. So we'll have to see. We had told Shane Gillis the wrong order for the box scores, I guess. It is what it is. Utah versus Portland. Again, nobody fun as well, too. Shout out to everybody playing. Just draft-wise is all what we're saying. Just us being a basic draft fan. Is Scoot still playing for Portland? I don't think so. But, our guy Henson. Henson Yang, 10 rebounds, 5 turns. What happened to Henson Yang? I thought this guy was a machine. 3 for 8. I mean, it could have been a down game. We got to give him a break here. But we got another Jalen as well, too. Jalen Bridges, 16 points, 6 for 10. Maybe, a name to keep an eye on there. Looks like Utah, 79 total points. Justin Harmon, who I think has been pretty good for him this summer league as well, too. I think Harmon's going to be on the roster. And, again, it just, obviously, you look at the NBA rosters, there's a lot of good players. Not everybody just gets minutes, but, he might get some minutes for him as well, too. Again, like Ace Bailey, Cody Williams, like those guys have looked good, and they're gonna play early on. But as the season goes, as things shake out, obviously, you never know who ends up, getting through the shuffle there. But Henson Yang was like the star of summer league last year. His performances, he was like the next Jokic. He's gonna be diming guys up and rebounding and scoring and doing all this crazy post stuff. And apparently, I guess the scoring hasn't quite been brought along like that. And to be honest, we haven't necessarily heard as like the G League stories of him as well, too, or whatever the developmental stuff is there. I mean, I guess he could just be on the roster, kind of sitting on the bench. But either way, this is his time to shine. And again, this is the part as well, too, where if you're proving yourself, you probably should be watched from the sidelines. But I guess, getting the run is not bad as well. But come on, we were rooting for him. So we're just, hoping for, I guess, the stat line increase to happen there as well, too. So I guess no Ice Cube joke there for that one. It is what it is. But we do get the Clippers, I guess, securing the... Oh, no, it's overtime? It's going to overtime? I guess I got the game on in the background. I'm not even paying attention. Yes, it's going to overtime here. Is what it is going to look like. So, I mean, if this was a normal NBA game, we would stay on live for following the overtime of this. But I think, we will probably not end up staying for the entire overtime for this one. It is what it is. But, we'll be back soon. We do have the World Cup final Sunday. So, we will either be live and or recapping that, here on the live stream. Of course, you can follow us along on the YouTube. You can, follow us on the podcast feeds as well, too. Hit us up at REMINGTOM Pod on Instagram if you want to send us a message over there. IT's got to write down whatever I always say, DM us REMINGTOM Pod for something, and then never remember what it is. So, have to go back and remember what it was. It was some type of actor situation. Oh, it was DM us about. Let us know who is the Ebenezer Scrooge power rankings for actors. Who can play Ebenezer Scrooge? Is it Chris Collinsworth or is it somebody else? We have to really, figure out who that role is. I guess Johnny Depp is the next attempt for it here. But which was something we'll also monitor. And we have the Odyssey this weekend as well, too. We'll have to figure out where we get the Odyssey recap in there as well, which we could have done tonight. We could have gone for the opening night Odyssey situation. Hey, yo, Nolan, we'll do our best. But we're just waiting for it to drop on Peacock or whatever. Or HBO. I don't know which streaming service he's signed with now. But I guess overtime for Summer League is 2 minutes. Do we have enough voice for overtime, chat? I think we can maybe make it work. I guess that makes sense. They're probably not like, let's play a full 10 more minutes of overtime in Summer League. They're like, nope, let's just make it 2 minutes. Honestly, just have a free throw, just like a half court contest. You don't even need to make it a game. It's just developmental. It's not even like it's not even really about getting winners, but they did show a ring. I'm not going to lie. They did show our Summer League championship ring, and I was like, you get a full-on ring for winning the Summer League championship? Like, there's nothing against that, but I don't know if it should be, like, equal to the NBA title. Like, hey, yo. You're like, wait a second, you won the NBA title? You're like, no, Vegas Summer League 26. Like, we won it. First time the Minnesota's won a championship in men's basketball for forever is Minnesota Men's Summer League. Like, it shouldn't be that. Like, the Minnesota Men's Summer League team, like, regardless of their success, like, they shouldn't have more championship ring than Kevin Garnett. Like, again, not to be disrespectful to Kevin Garnett there, but I'm trying to defend him. I'm trying to say that, that's too much. Hey, yo, it is what it is. But it does look like Wagler was back on the sideline as well, too. So, again, I'm not going to say too much to try to jinx him long term. Again, probably going to get shut down for the rest of Summer League. But it does seem like maybe basketball health-wise, he will be, good to go. I guess assuming, we didn't just jinx him again there. But, hey, yo, but at least from this incident, he should be good to go going forward. So, shout out. Again, we're excited for this draft class. It has been fun. And now that the World Cup has eased up, we'll lock into Summer League here the last couple of days and, learn some random names and see what's going on. But again, shout out to Caitlin Clark, the W. It's starting to, not to say that it wasn't in the forefront beforehand, but, the World Cup is the World Cup and it's the most popular sporting event in the world. So it's in the forefront of everything. But now that, we're going to be past that as well, too, the W is going to definitely be, clutch to have on, but fun to watch and see what is going on there, lock into those storylines as the season ramps up as well too, playoffs, and I think is the All-Star break still to come? Maybe the All-Star break is right around the corner here, so lock in for a little second half season run. But like I said, we will be back Sunday for the live stream here. Sunday, Tuesday, Friday is the schedule here typically on the Room and Sam pod. Of course, we will pop out every now and then for a special event as well to change the schedule there if need be. But, base operations, Monday, Tuesday, Friday is when you can join us here on the live stream. So we will see you all Sunday. Looking forward to seeing what the result of the World Cup is going to be. We're not going to jinx anybody, so we have no opinion about what's going to happen. We have no takes. We have no rooting interest. We're just going to sit here neutrally and watch the World Cup. That's all that's going to happen. So we will see you then. Enjoy your weekend. Peace, and shout out to Singleton as well too. 3-part Boys in the Hood week is over, but it was a great week, and we love having the DBT. Rest in peace to John Singleton. Shout out to the great movie. We will see y'all later. Peace.